Women do what you allow them to do, and vice versa with the women. A man gonna do what you allow him to do, and if you don't know your worth, you'll put up with that bullshit. But when you know your worth and you know you don't have to put up with it, you ain't gonna put up with it.
The girl was like, well, if I decide I want to wear a string bikini, to the beach and all that, I don't deserve to be harassed. And if you got a problem with that as my man, that's a problem. And he was like, look, I'm not, like, you shouldn't be harassed. You're right. You shouldn't be harassed. However, they got creeps out there. Period. There are creeps out there. And so you have to be mindful. He's like, I'm not worried about my woman per se. She fine and she putting it out. Okay, cool. However, they gonna have somebody that's gonna disrespect that boundary. They gonna have somebody that's gonna do something to handle because they don't have the respect.
Right.
That's who I'm looking out for. That's who I'm afraid of you attracting, right? And stuff. And so that's real talk. Like, you're going to attract the creeps with that. A woman is tight because she's nervous. It's a muscle. So if I'm nervous and I'm not comfortable, then it's going to be tight. That don't mean necessarily that it's just
preach my Shawnnell, because when you're loose and like that, you want to know what we doing? We getting ready to orgasm. It's called bottoming out. We're letting that bottom drop so you can hit what we need you to hit, so we can get what we want. If you notice, every time before the orgasm, it goes loose. Pay attention. Before her orgasm, not your orgasm is tight because she's working for you. Her orgasm is loose every time. She don't squeeze during the orgasm. She squeezes after the orgasm because she's trying to stop. It's a reflex after. And I'm sorry, y'all not moving, shaking. I got my phone in my hand. That's how I keep my glasses. That's how it works.
There are some decent women out there that may have kids that are able to hold it down for themselves and still be able to accept a man into their lives in a man's role. So
see, the thing is, when you just say you need a woman that's holding it down by herself, this is the problem right here. In today, in the 21st century, a lot of women, they don't want to have no damn discipline. They don't want no man to come in and tell them what to do. They don't want to follow no rules. They want to sit there and say they want a strong man. As soon as that man shows up.
Women do what you allow them to do, and vice versa with the women. A man gonna do what you allow him to do, and if you don't know your worth, you'll put up with that bullshit. But when you know your worth and you know you don't have to put up with it, you ain't gonna put up with it.
The girl was like, well, if I decide I want to wear a string bikini, to the beach and all that, I don't deserve to be harassed. And if you got a problem with that as my man, that's a problem. And he was like, look, I'm not, like, you shouldn't be harassed. You're right. You shouldn't be harassed. However, they got creeps out there. Period. There are creeps out there. And so you have to be mindful. He's like, I'm not worried about my woman per se. She fine and she putting it out. Okay, cool. However, they gonna have somebody that's gonna disrespect that boundary. They gonna have somebody that's gonna do something to handle because they don't have the respect. That's who I'm looking out for. That's who I'm afraid of you attracting, right? And stuff. And so that's real talk. Like, you're going to attract the creeps with that. A woman is tight because she's nervous. It's a muscle. So if I'm nervous and I'm not comfortable, then it's going to be tight. That don't mean necessarily that it's just like that.
preach my Shawnnell, cause when you're loosing like that, you want to know what we doing? We getting ready to orgasm. It's called bottoming out. We're letting that bottom drop so you can hit what we need you to hit, so we can get what we want. If you notice, every time before the orgasm, it goes loose. Pay attention. Before her orgasm, not your orgasm is tight because she's working for you. Her orgasm is loose every time. She don't squeeze during the orgasm. She squeezes after the orgasm because she's trying to stop. It's a reflex after. And I'm sorry, y'all not moving, shaking. I got my phone in my hand. But that's how I keep my glasses. That's how it works.
There are some decent women out there that may have kids that are able to hold it down for themselves and still be able to accept a man into their lives in a man's role. So
see, the thing is, when you just say you need a woman that's holding it down by herself, this is the problem right here. In today, in the 21st century, a lot of women, they don't want to have no damn discipline. They don't want no man to come in and tell them what to do. They don't want to follow no rules. They want to sit there and say they want a strong man. As soon as that man show up and start trying to lay down structure and foundation, they flee. Oh, you trying to boss me around? You trying to tell me what to do? All this nonsense. You want me to be submissive? I ain't no slave.
No, Rick,
all this goofy shit.
You narcissistic. That's the new word.
Yeah, that or toxic masculinity. All these other shaming tactics they got trying to do to hate women.
Here we go.
Here we go. What's up, fellas?
You got it. You got it. Another day, another episode. Speak on it. Part 2. Season 2. What's happening with you? I see we got some fellas on the
I got my guest panel here. Ms. Alfonso Home, my colleague, a black male therapist in the house.
That's
and my homie Harvey. He has his own podcast called Men Are the Prize. I was on his podcast. He let me infiltrate and all that. His podcast is all about the men and mental health. And so he brings lots of men on to talk about those things and all that. And I thought they would be good for this arena to help.
Oh, yeah.
You know what
Let them introduce yourselves. Tell what you do, where we can find you at.
All right. Name's George Brooks, CEO and founder of Meta Association.
George up there. My bad, George.
Advocate, mental health advocate, public speaker, all that. Really passionate about Black mental health. Feel that it's something that has been neglected, something that we've neglected within ourselves, and just try to work and endeavor every day to try to improve it. Because I feel that it's affecting our community, it's affecting our relationships, our children, and it's keeping us broke. So I'm glad to be here and looking forward to having this conversation.
Yeah, I work real closely with George. We're working on some things together, work on some black man mental health things, with his nonprofit Meta.
Okay, next up.
All right, I guess I'll introduce myself. Like Shawnnell mentioned, my name is Harvey Laguerre. I am host of Men Are the Prize, the podcast. I came up with this podcast because we men need a space to be open, to talk. I was lucky enough to have 2 of these people here on my show. Shawnnell was on, and it was wonderful to have a Black queen on there to talk about mental health, but to be a positive force for Black men. It's something that we need. Sisters, our backbone, to talk, to speak life into us. So thank you again for doing that episode. It was wonderful.
Anytime, man, anytime.
And of course, I met you through, I believe, George. And George, it was wonderful to have you on. And we had a good conversation about masculinity, about fatherhood, another important part of being a man. My space is for men literally to talk. It's almost unimportant what you talk about. It's important that you talk. We are in such a time where men aren't comfortable just saying whatever. So I wanted a space for men to just be able to say what's up, talk about what's going on, so that we realize speaking is okay. It's natural. And for other men to hear, oh, that brother's talking, I can do that too.
Right.
And it's imperative that when we talk, we realize we have the same struggles, we're going through the same things. Then it becomes easier to find a mental health, professional to talk with. It's important that we get our struggles out and recognize that we have value. So I'm happy to be in this space to talk about mental health. Let's go. Let's do
Are
this.
you on any other platforms?
You can find, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. That's kind of what we were supposed to be doing. You can find my podcast at harveyleguerre.com. So if you want to find me, the podcast, and all my socials, go to my website, harveyleguerre.com, and you will find every episode of the podcast and on my socials. And you'll find me on Facebook. I'm in TikTok a little bit.
A
little bit. I'm trying to force myself to get out there. I'm working on getting this face out into the world. So I'm working my way out. But Instagram and Facebook and X. So yeah, I'm on it.
Okay, it'll happen. Next up,
Stefanso.
How you doing?
Doing good.
What's going on, brother?
Coming.
Yes. My name is Alfonso Holmes. I'm a licensed professional counselor, supervisor, dual licensed in Louisiana and Texas. Newly licensed to Texas. Owner of Awaken Counseling and Wellness. I'm just trying to save one life at a time. I also, and I think we're mentioning social media platforms. My Instagram page tag is at the Awaken AWAKEN_therapist. That's the main platform that I use. I have one on Facebook as well. It's not as active, still trying to tweak Facebook a little bit. I was in that transition where everybody was like, stop using Facebook and started using Instagram. So I'm in between right now. TikTok, look, that's like Star Trek at this point.
I'm getting all of y'all on TikTok. Okay, I'm getting y'all on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I be wanting to go over there, but I don't be knowing how to do the live, and I'm like, it's people on there with way lesser interesting content than I have, but they're going live. Women just on there cooking and shit. They're just on there playing music and staring at the camera.
People be on TikTok sleeping. And people just watching them sleep.
So I'm like, I know I should be able to go live on there and do something, but I can't find the live button. I had to took the time to research.
Well, first you need 1,000 followers, so we got to get your followers up if you ain't got 1,000 followers on there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I'm like them. I don't even look at that to get the followers. But yeah, okay. Now that I know the concept, I can do that.
I have a TikTok page, but I just got to learn how to navigate. I need a tutorial.
So after tonight's show, I decided to go live on TikTok for the first time. And so we're going to continue the discussion for anybody out there that wants to continue the discussion. Because I figure I use this for an opportunity for me to get out there and go live.
You know, right. There you go.
So
there you go.
Lead the pack on the live.
Okay.
There you go.
That's what's up.
Let's do it.
Because once I bust that TikTok open, it's up.
It's over, huh? It's over.
Prepare to be sick of me.
Ain't nothing wrong with being sick of you.
You know what I'm saying? I might just go on and just do a little something, you know.
Let's talk about it. What's the thing you put up there already, Black? The first thing you put up there before.
Man, it was, like I said, man, it's just so much. And to the panel, being that you guys are into the male therapy thing, I, up until recently, anti-Black people, period, not just men, do not go to therapy. That's something that the YTs did. Well, that's something we didn't do. Because I didn't see my dad go to therapy. I didn't see granddad go to therapy. None of my uncles went to therapy. They just toughed it out. You know what I'm saying? They put that brick on their back. They walked up that hill. They put it down, you know. So I just figured that's something we don't do.
Right.
And doing my research, there's a lot of people who think like I thought. And like I say, as of recent, my first touch of therapy was when the topic came up about the discussion about me getting married. Okay. And my psyche, from what I've seen growing up, I didn't even really want to get married, right? And I just happened to have a aunt and uncle that married. My aunt married to a preacher, and they do marriage counseling. And so when they say, "Hey, get your Uncle Joe to be your preacher, be the reverend at your wedding," he said, "Now you have to do some therapy, don't you?" Because he know I wasn't with the therapy thing. And I was like, "What you mean?" He said, "No, you have to do some counseling, therapy, and all that before I even touch you. Before you even think about marriage, you got to make sure you right with yourself." And I'm like, "I know myself. I found knowledge of self when I was at Jackson State. Each one teach when knowledge of self. I know knowledge of self." And he was like, "No, you got to know yourself because you're going to enter a life with somebody else who have their own life, and you're going to bond your junk with them, and you need to know what your issues are and see if you're even suited to even marry her." And I'm like, we know we want to marry each other. Ain't no preacher, therapist, or nothing gonna tell me if I want to marry who I want to marry. That's my mindset. Right. And so, long story short, we sat, and he knew he's a licensed therapist just like you guys. And so he knew how to sucker somebody like me in. I'm gonna call you this night. We just gonna shoot. I'm just gonna talk to you this. So he'll start out talking about something altogether, my music and different stuff. And then before you know it, we talking about serious issues. And before you know it, he taking me back to childhood situations that I was like, because my aunt was telling him a lot of stuff, so he knew how to approach me. And so I was like, hey, maybe this thing, it's kind of working. So we did it. Marriage went good. And I'm still like, therapy is not for us. That was cool for the marriage thing, one step at a time. Like my man said, one person at a time. So I was doing it one step at a time. We did the marriage counseling. It was cool. And then through that, in marriage, you start bumping heads. Boom, 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 boom. Well, we thought it was doing this, da-da-da. This ain't what I signed up, da-da-da-da-da-da. Then it's your way out of highway. No, you just need to learn how to adjust. We going through that. That's the only thing we was kind of going through. And so you need to get therapy is what she said. And so I'm like, we need to go to counseling. If we don't go to counseling, I don't know if it's going to work and all that crap. And I'm like, you talking to a stranger. We know what's going on. You don't want to listen. And it's about life. You just let me lead like I'm supposed to lead, and you listen, and I'm gonna listen to you a little bit, but I know how to do this thing. Your parents were never married, mine were. So let me lead this thing. And so when I got on here and ran across some of the comments that Shawnnell would put on her wall before I even met her, I was like, hey, she got a point. Hey, I just went through that a couple weeks ago. Hey, she's hitting on something. So I reached out, pulled her on here, and she messed around one night. We were forced to be on here by ourselves. I had another host, and he would mainly run it, and I just come in, voice my opinion, stir up the pot, and bag back. That was my job on the original podcast. I stir it up and get out. And he called me like an hour before the show and said he wasn't going to be able to make it on here. So I hit Shawnnell. I said, hey, he bagging out last minute. One monkey ain't going to stop no DJ Black show. So what we going to do? She said, I'll be on. I'm going to come on early. So we were forced to be on there. And she started pulling stuff out of me that I didn't know. And she was making me think twice about my thoughts. And I was like, man, this therapy thing, they may be on to something. But I was one who was totally against therapy. So during my research, it's just so many people who think like I do. And then today's time, it tells how pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic
right.
therapy is more needed now than ever. It was on the rise as far as men seeking it right before the pandemic. But when the pandemic hit, it was like it's soared. So when I was just doing my little research, men are far likely than women to seek professional support. You know, they're less likely to disclose mental health problems to friends and family. And that was me. You know, dad dealt with everything on his own. He worked 16 hours. We didn't know nothing wrong with dad until he didn't get up to go to work. Exactly. And we asked him what's wrong. And he said his chest hurt. He can't stand up. His feet hurt. He didn't, you know, we hold all that in. And I inherited that, you know. And in today's time, we were taught therapy was for weak-minded people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You weak. And so that just never came up. But when you get older, you get wiser, and then you open your circle. And I'm more accepted, I guess, to it now than I would have been even 5 years ago. I want to say so bad 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago. So this is something new. I've seen women and girls go to therapy, but a hardcore John Henry man going to therapy, that's just something I didn't grow up seeing, so I didn't believe it.
Right. And you know, a lot of that comes from the fact that we, especially as Black men, we're still holding on to this antiquated sense of masculinity of what we should be doing. This white folks stuff that makes you soft. No, it's not, because as men, especially Black men, we are just now getting to the point, like you said, post-pandemic, to where we're addressing the fact we do have trauma. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, yeah, I was raised by Big Mama, but Big Mama may have done some things, messed me up a little bit. I need to fix it. So I think the fact that we are even having this discussion goes a long way, because by not going ahead and embracing therapy or therapeutic methods, or just opening ourselves up emotionally and showing a little vulnerability, we're seeing how it's affecting our communities. We're seeing we have this phenomenon of masculine women energy that's working to our detriment. So we got people coming up with terms like toxic masculinity. I don't think it's a such thing as toxic masculinity, but we're seeing how it's affecting our pocketbooks, our children, our standing in society, because the thing is, we're not dealing with our trauma and our issues. And not saying that therapy is the only way to deal with it, but it's one way to show accountability to ourselves as men, and to facilitate our own healing, not only for ourselves, but for our loved ones and the world as a whole.
And the key word he said is accountability.
Right.
And Shawnnell will tell you, we've been in conversations on here, and she'll indirectly call me out on something, and then I'll sit back and go into a shell, and I say, you know what, she's on to something. I always tell her, y'all anti-Black, anti-Black, because she stay on me. But that's her way of getting me to open up and accept accountability for the actions, for my thoughts, for the things I say, because I've said some outrageous stuff on here, and I'm just now calming down in that sense, Shawnnell and the Austin. Now, the Austin that just joined, how you doing?
Hey, Austin, what's that?
What's going on?
He's the first male that I know that always talk about therapy. Oh, I need to go to therapy. You need to seek counseling. And I'm like, come on, dude. We came from the same cloth. Brothers, we call each other before we go to school to figure out what we're wearing. You ain't going to be seeking no therapy, man. We get out here. It is what it is. The woman need to be taught how to act. We know how to lead. Why are you seeking therapy? But he would always get on here. Yeah, man, I just left therapy. Hey, let me call you back, man. I'm sitting outside this counselor's office. I'm like, what is he doing? Counseling this dude, they're tripping. But he never did back down. He still was going, yeah, you need to try it and you'll be amazed. And so, like I say, it wasn't until Shawnnell and all of us came together that I even started considering that, because sitting there talking to a stranger about what going on. If I know I'm not listening to her, she knows she don't want to listen to what I'm saying. We know what the problem is in my head. Right. But you got to figure out where the problem actually derived from.
Right.
And that's what I'm learning now. Yeah, I know this and I know that, but where did those thoughts come from? And just right here on this panel right here, Shawnnell took me all the way back to a lot of my actions came from what I seen as a child, as you stated earlier. Childhood things that I thought wasn't nothing, but it carved my mental as an adult. And so I took that into this, and like I say, I used to, I'm quick to say I'll make a pretty bitch leave. You know, I put my women through hell, and the fact that the one that I married stayed with me through 3 years of hell, I thought that was something to, you know, be proud of, but it wasn't. All those demons was from my past that I was inflicting on her, and I just found all this out from talking to Shawnnell. Just us general conversation on this platform. And so our relationship, believe it or not, in the last year and a half, 2 years, has gotten much better since this podcast. So it's therapeutic,
right?
Because I have a therapist on here, and I turn her on to other people. I say, hey, you need to check my therapist out. You know, she deep, you know.
Right. Yeah. And remembering that, you know, the history of us, right? Of course, we don't trust people because systems have screwed us over, right? So of course we don't trust people. We don't, you know, we didn't had a healthcare system, and you know, just all of the systems that's built around keeping Black folks down, right, and keeping us from moving forward. Well, no, we can't even go to the doctor, the regular doctor, and be respected and be taken care of properly. You know, as Black women, like they have this myth that we have a larger pain threshold, you know, and stuff like, so they won't even medicate us properly and all that. So it's understandable for that we don't trust the system, right? Which is why it's important for people like us to become therapists, to be like Harvey and create a platform, you know, so that we can have a safe space to talk about the things. Many people have tried therapy and have gone in there and have been told that you know, their problems weren't real problems when they start talking about racism or microaggressions, or, you know, I feel this thing, and they're like, are you sure that's what it is? Yeah, well, yeah, you don't know my experience of walking in the store and being followed. And I know when I'm being followed, you know. And so if somebody's negating your experiences all the time, if somebody is always saying that what's real to you is not real, well, yeah, no, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. So it's important for those of us to be behind the desk and you know, in the white coat. It's important for us to take care of us in order and create spaces for us in order for us to start trusting our own system. Even if you don't trust the grand system, trust your own, right?
And one thing too, we have to get over this thinking of what's supposed to be and what's not supposed to be.
Right.
People saying, well, it runs in the family, or that's how my mama did it. Well, that doesn't mean it was right.
Right.
and the thing is, we sometimes we don't realize how those things that are seen as normal, that are almost cliched in our culture, are really trauma inducing.
Yeah.
And we have to start dealing with them now. And one thing about the pandemic, and you brought this up previously, was that post-pandemic, it's like it made everyone aware of mental health. Because before it's perceived as, okay, that's the guy that's on the corner mumbling to himself. But when we got that cabin fever and we had the stress economically and whatever from the pandemic, it made us all conscious of our own mental health.
Right. So it's easy to live with your mate when you ain't seeing them all the time, right?
Right.
With the pandemic, I got to look in your face every day. And wow, I know who you are.
A lot of divorces came out of that. A lot of separations came out of that.
Yeah. Parents found out that they don't like their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh wait, they was cutting up at school because they is cutting up here. I ain't believe the teacher, right? And so now you're starting to see the things that, because you wasn't around them all the time. And oh Lord, like, this is depressing to be in the house all the time. You know, I know husbands that have at-home wives who all of a sudden got it. Like, what you doing around here all day and you ain't really doing nothing, but realize the time between morning and after school go real fast when you're trying to take care of things, right? And so it opens people's minds up and help people see that, you know, it's hard. It's hard, and it's hard to process that stuff, and it's hard to deal with that stuff, and all your old stuff come up. All of it comes up.
And all this stuff that you didn't know or didn't think was an issue you begin to realize that wound's a little bit deeper than what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But since now we're at a point that we are aware of the situation, we have access to information. How do we progress? Where do we go forward to further facilitate our healing, to further improve our relationships? Because it's hurting our standing in society.
Yeah,
we less likely to get therapy. We less like, and if you were having a heart attack, you wouldn't mistrust a doctor at that point. And I don't mean to compare the two, but they're similar.
Yeah,
you have to treat almost, if it helps you to treat your emotional trauma like a physical issue,
do it. Because it is a lifeline.
Right.
And we have to get away from those Aunt your mammy type of thinking.
I like that.
Right.
We have to remove ourselves from that, because mental health has become such a big thing these days. And again, back to what you all were saying, when I was seeing a therapist, I always looked for someone that looked like me, because I felt that they were better able to understand me, not just from the textbook standpoint, but from a real world stance, And so it didn't make me less of a man or less of a person to seek help in decluttering my emotions and my mental. It only helped me to grow into either confirming what I already knew about myself or unlocking some things that I didn't know about myself.
Right.
Alfonso, what you feel like are some ways that you use that's different, like we're working with Black folks?
So you all were mentioning the time during the pandemic and the time that we all had to pretty much sit with ourselves. One of the biggest things that I use in my practice, I've had training in this modality called mindfulness-based stress reduction. What's interesting about the idea of sitting with yourself is understanding how much you've been distracted from the world around you, how much you've been distracted through using social media every day, working every day, whether it's like even we're driving in the car from one place to the next, we're like the radio is on, or we're yelling at the person who can't drive, so we're constantly in motion, and we don't have much time to sit with ourselves. And so and it's amazing that we're talking about this, because I literally had two clients before this, and we were discussing those moments when things, things get real when it's silent.
Yes.
And there's those moments, and many times those moments are like right before you go to sleep, right before you go to bed, and you're winding down. And then, that's when a lot of people start noticing the anxiety, right? Your mind just trying to process the day, the week, or anything that came up, for you during throughout that day or whatever it may be. We rarely reflect on our day.
Yeah.
We're just like, okay, I'm surviving. Let me go to sleep so I can get back up and do it all over again.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I like to do is help people to learn how to take moments, and it doesn't have to be, like I said, people think meditating or journaling has to be like this hour-long thing. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be moments. It could be like 5 minutes of your time.
I told my client today, she's like, I'm doing all this stuff. I was like, 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
That's it.
Just choose that 5 minutes to choose yourself for just for a moment,
Absolutely.
Right. I think one thing I heard, a word that we mentioned earlier, was accountability. And I think we as men need to be accountable to ourselves.
Yes.
We need to sit back and recognize what we're here for. We're here to take care of everybody, spouse, family, life, and such. And we never, ever put ourselves at the top of that list.
Come on, man.
We are never first. I know I'm supposed to take care of my wife and my kids, but I do that better when I'm good. Yeah. And that 5 minutes when I can sit back and talk and think about the day I had, whether it was positive, whether it was negative, whether I got that promotion or I didn't get that job, or that woman pulled her purse because I was walking by. All these feelings, all these emotions I went through the day, to take time and reflect on what it felt like to be a Black man on this Wednesday.
Come on,
it is
man.
important to be accountable to myself, because I'm a better husband when I feel better about me, right?
Absolutely.
I'm a better father when I feel good about the day. I can lead my children. I can be a better best friend. And that's another thing. When I'm accountable for me, when I feel better about me, I'm a better listener to that brother who may not want to go to a therapist, but he'll go to his best friend.
Come on.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we have to understand too that therapy is a process. It's not as though you're going to go for a week and everything's going to be great. You know, I've been in therapy over 5 years. Plan on being in it the rest of my life, because you're forever evolving.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you're forever discovering new issues, new things, new challenges. So don't think, and a lot of people think, well, you've been in therapy 6 months. What good has it done? Look at where you were 6 months ago.
Right.
Look at where you are now, and think about where you can be 6 months from now. So we have to understand that healing, any kind of healing, is a process. Wounds don't typically heal overnight. That goes for psychopathy as well. So as long as we're able to be married to the process and commit to it, and not be in it just to hear what we want to hear, but be able to sit there when we have to hear that stuff we don't want to hear.
Come on.
That's when therapy is really effective.
Right.
You know, a lot of people go in with the mentality thinking that a therapist is a mechanic.
Right.
So, you know, a therapist, again, is not there to fix you. They're not there to make you feel better about yourself, but they're there to help you understand yourself better. So you know how to deal with some of those societal stresses or those daily stresses that you encounter. So you'll be a better person than you were before you started therapy.
Right.
And then sometimes your best friend, you know, they can listen to you, but not have the information to give you techniques to use or other ways to look at things. So you open up this jar of issues, problems, and concerns with your best friend, but then no one knows how to put the lid back on. And I think that's where a licensed, trained therapist comes into play.
And it's a matter of perspective as well, because, you know, one thing that impedes many people from going into therapy is that they make the argument, well, why would I tell a stranger? Well, here's the thing, gentlemen, we know this. You go to the barbershop, you're going to hear everybody's business.
That's the truth.
You know, you're going to hear everybody's business, who this and who that. But the thing is, what comes from that? Nothing but gossip. So why not take that chance and tell someone that's trained, that has that perspective of not having that interpersonal relationship with you, to give you that clarity and further facilitate your healing that way. So sometimes it's not always good, you know, to tell your best friend everything, because they're coming to it with a preconceived notion. So that's where a therapist can really be effective and really be beneficial.
And I usually tell people, when people come up with the, you know, telling a stranger thing or whatever, well, I tell my wife everything. What happens when your wife is the problem? It's part of your problem. Right. And you need to process that thing outside of her. What happens when your best friend is the issue? And you need to process that thing outside of them clearly. Right. But that's the only person you got to really talk to that you trust. Right. The second thing is, I am legally bound not to tell your business. Like, I can't see nothing. I legally cannot say anything. You'll never hear what you told me on the street, because I can't say it, you know. And the third thing is, like, objectivity, right? Your best friend love you. They love you with all your heart. And I love every client, but I don't love them like I love my best friend. I don't love them like I love my kids. I don't love them like I love my boo. You know what I'm saying? And so I can look at things from the outside, objectively, outside of the feelings that go between people, right? And I can give you sound information, right? Because it's not advice, because I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to guide you in the right direction. I'm going to open your eyes to the possibilities of what can be. I'm going to help you see things clearer, you know, but I'm going to give you a story, you know, to give you an example. But I'm not going to tell you what to do, because it's your choice and your decision. I'm going to tell you what decisions are available, right? And which direction
Mhm.
that can lead down, but it's up to you to make the choice and the decision, right? But I
In
can look
addition,
from the outside.
in addition to that, I mean, even with your friends and family, there are biases. You know, they have
Hmm.
their own personal biases, and they may, will say, "Well, you did this to me, and this is why you're acting this way."
Hmm.
And also understanding what happens when that person runs out of capacity,
Right.
Right.
when they don't have the capacity anymore, and they're tired of hearing
Hmm.
what
Compassion
you're talking
fatigue is a
about.
real deal.
Yeah,
Right.
You get tired, right? You
absolutely.
know,
And
and
then
you don't want to wear each other out in that
Hmm.
capacity, right?
and
Yeah.
then you stepping into an area where this person is not there to judge you. Now,
Right.
Hmm.
what you say to your friend or family member may leave room for judgment or
Hmm.
looking at you differently than
Right.
they did before. Oh, and thinking in the back of their head, oh, that's why that nigga did this. Oh,
Right.
that's why he was acting like that. And then when you start doing certain things, they're going to replay what you told them in their
Come on.
head, and
Hmm.
then
Yeah.
again judge you. So
Right.
if I'm saying a therapist, I know that you are this amount of space in my life.
Hmm.
I see you at this point in time. I give you this information. And then I'm not dealing with you outside of that space.
Right.
Now, when I go out and back into my real world and dealing with my daily stressors, then I can reflect on things that you said
Hmm.
Mhm.
and go back to that, but I'm not dealing with you as part of my daily stressors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And see, when he was going to his little therapies and marriage counseling, and the Joker still went through 2 divorces, I'm like,
It didn't make sense for you.
it didn't make sense.
Right.
But it wasn't until, because at first I was like, that I proved my point. You
Right.
went out, paid all that money to go to some damn therapy, and guess what? Yeah, still got divorced, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
So then on this platform, he said therapy and marriage counseling is not to repair your marriage or your situation. Sometimes in those therapy sessions, you determine and both agree that you were not a good fit for each other.
Right.
Right.
So it's not set to repair your relationship, which,
Mhm.
and I'm not the only one, majority of the people who say we
Many people
need to
think that.
seek counseling think that we're seeking counseling to better and
Right.
come close. He went to counseling and found out that, and saw several therapists just to find out that they wasn't a good fit. They weren't a good fit for each other.
Right. Right.
And that was so odd to me because I'm like, I thought you guys saved the relationships,
Well, a
but
lot
not
of
all
people.
relationships got
Yeah.
saved or repaired.
Yeah, you have to be mindful of why are you seeking therapy? Are you going in to seek a certain result? Because if you're doing that, it's going to fail. If you're going into any kind of relationship counseling thinking, well, it's going to save the marriage, no, it's to help you better understand yourself to see if that can work out.
Yeah.
So a lot of
And I
times
didn't know
people,
that.
yeah, people embark in therapy thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this, so it's gonna help me make more money. No, don't go into it with that mindset. Just go into it with the mindset of learning more about yourself, because that's where relationship counseling can get spotty because you're going into it with another person
Right.
and you can't control that, and the therapist can't control that. So don't go into it thinking I'm going to save my marriage, everything's going to be this. It's going to be what it's going to be, but you
Right.
have to invest and commit yourself to that process.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
found too, with couples therapy, I often teach my couples, like, this isn't necessarily you against your mate per se. The fighting ain't really between y'all because you fell in love, you love each other, all that good stuff. But your trauma is fighting with their trauma.
Right.
But
And so
what I
it's just
noticed,
a tool
Chanel,
belt.
with what you just said, and then Austin, you can chime in. A lot of the people who I see do the couple therapies and things like that, that woman can't wait to expose everything wrong that man does. Now, I'm talking about I mean, it's like you would go in there thinking we just got 1, 2 little issues we working on. Before you know it, and you say, okay, now tell me how you feel. Oh, he does this and he did, and I'm like, what is? I'm like, it gets crazy, and then women, and that's majority of them. Then women can't wait to get in front of that stranger and tell everything, and that man be sitting there like he did not know that bothered her. He did not know that was an issue. He thought
So
everything was fine.
But that's
so so
that lets you know there's a communication issue in their relationship. The fact that
That's
she
what I
had
would
to
point
go
out.
to a therapist in order to express that. So that lets you know off the bat it's a problem right there because she should be able to express it to him in a safe way without having to have a therapist there. So that lets you know that's the first area they need to work on is communication. You know,
yeah.
it's not the fact that she may necessarily want to bag on them or make them look bad. It's just that may be the only place where she feel like she can get a word in edgewise, or maybe she may feel safe enough emotionally to express that. It just comes.
And
I
so
know what you're saying, but
yeah, so that's what I was about to say. You know, going into that space, maybe that's where they felt safe to express what they needed to express. Now, one thing that one area that I made a mistake in and she made a mistake in is when we were going looking for a therapist, we looked for a therapist separately. So, and I equated that to like people looking for a church. If you're an individual looking for a church, you're looking for something that feels good to you, something that resonates with you. So when you're seeking a therapist as a couple, you need to seek that therapist together to identify if that therapist fits what you all are looking
Both of you
for.
looking for.
Right.
Right. Because
So
everybody need to feel safe in that space.
right. And that therapist um, needs to not just represent one person in
Right.
in those sessions.
Right.
It needs to There need to be a non-biased person.
Right. And I get women all the time because they come in there with a lot of the assuming because I'm a female, I'm gonna be on their side. But y'all already know on this show, I stay in women's behinds just as bad as I stay in men's behinds. I'm gonna hold you more accountable because I'm a female too. And lady friend, you know, this is what needs to happen. Like George said, that's the first thing I would be like, but sound like there's a communication issue because you should have been said this to him. And if you didn't feel safe with him to say, okay, well, let's talk about the safety. Let's talk about the communication. Let's talk about, you know, these I can't talk, intricacies that are affecting y'all ability to talk to each other in your own space, in your own home, within your relationship and all that. So like, and it has to be unbiased. It has to, and that's exactly, I'm no bullshit. I'm going to tell that woman, just like I'm gonna tell that man straightforwardly, you know, okay, no, this sounds like a you issue. And so how do we deal with that? How do we fix that part? You know,
and we can't go into therapy thinking it's supposed to make us feel good because it ain't. That's where many people make a mistake. Well, I don't feel better. I don't. But do you realize more about yourself? Did it initiate you embarking upon a journey to improve those things? It's not meant to make you necessarily feel good. Now, in time,
in the end, you'll feel better.
Yeah, you will feel better. But
a lot of people, but you got to go through the hard part to get to that part.
Right, exactly. And a lot of people don't get that. It's not instant gratification. And a therapist isn't going to necessarily take your side and say, well, you were right and you're great and it's about you. That's not always what you're going to hear. So when people don't encounter that, they tend to shy away. Well, I need another therapist. I don't like him. I don't like her. Why don't you like them? Think about it.
They made you look at
you. Do you not like them because they're generally not a good fit for you, or do you not like them because you're not getting something that you want to feed your ego out of that process?
You know, I've when I talk to people and talk to them about therapy and try to explain, you know, what I see therapy as, and I try to explain it in a way that you know is understandable. So I try to paint a picture. So I say, okay, so you are an older house. You have problems, issues, all of those things. So now you're going to be remodeled. You want to be remodeled. Okay, so some of the issues are still going to be there, but when you're going to bring in some new things to help resolve some of those issues that you may be having. You may have a foundation issue. So
Mm-hmm.
you bring in somebody, a foundation specialist, to help with your foundation. So you're not going to be a new house,
Right.
but you're going to be a remodeled house
I
that
like that.
has some new things about you that make you more appealing, not to anyone else, but to yourself.
For yourself, which is the primary importance. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I I found some stuff. I don't know if Black got it, but I found a lot of stuff regarding to some other reasons for men not wanting to enter therapy besides the trust issue. Um and we talked a little bit about feeling safe, right?
Right.
And that the first and easiest emotion and the most socially acceptable emotion for men, especially Black men, is anger. You know,
Mm.
um, talk about that. Like, and for any of you that have had that, you know, that apprehension or that upbringing or that, what like Harvey, like what made you decide I'm gonna stop being mad and I'm gonna do something different.
Mm.
Am I
Uh,
allowed to be sad?
See,
right.
yeah, because you're not
Exactly.
right.
And a
And
lot of the
that's
issue is
yeah.
men, we, especially as Black men, we are not raised to feel as though we're allowed to have an emotionally safe place to rest, to heal, to
Mhm.
mourn, to grieve. It's always, you got to do this, you got to do this. You're not a man. So that's what really affects our relationships. We don't have we're not encouraged to generate peace for ourselves.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that always keeps us angry, that always keeps us on edge. And plus the fact that men, fellas, we insecure about a lot of stuff. Black
Uh,
men, we got a lot of pressure on us that nobody else has.
hmm.
Mhm.
So you compound all of that, and roll it up with the fact that we aren't encouraged to have peace or safe places for ourselves emotionally. Then you're gonna
Hmm.
Mhm.
have problems that we encounter in society as brothers and as fathers and as husbands and just as citizens of the world. So we have to
Mhm.
work and endeavor to try to make sure, especially with our young men coming up now. You know, I'm not saying you got to be boohooing every 5 seconds, but yeah, it's okay if you need a break. It's okay if you need a safe space. It's okay if you need to talk. It's okay to emote, and we haven't done that, and we've been deprived of that, and that's what's really hurt us as a people.
And many
And
times,
no, go ahead.
uh, oh, no, I was saying many times it's the lack of like the emotional terminology,
Right.
like
uh,
not knowing
being able to
the
label it.
words to say or have a label for those feelings and those emotions. I get a lot of I think someone speaks what we are all talking about couples, but I get a lot of women who contact me for their husbands. You know,
Yes. Yes.
it's not the husband calling in and say,
Mm-mm.
"Hey, I need help," and then many times I try to encourage them to at least have their husband with them or have them to call me,
Hmm.
um, because sometimes, like someone mentioned earlier, the issue may be the wife
Yeah.
or the girlfriend,
Hmm.
and sometimes I get women who call for their adult sons,
Yeah.
Right.
and so that may be an issue within itself. And what understanding, right, being a black man in America, as cliche as that it is that many times it's the lack of like the terminology to say how you feel, because it's easier to show you how I feel
Mm.
versus telling you how I feel. Because
Right.
if I could tell you how I feel, then I may not be as angry or as
Ah,
upset,
that's important.
because
Yeah.
you can understand what that feels like. That's why I'm always encouraged like people using I messages and saying
Yeah.
I feel this way,
Right.
because another human being may have a similar experience or a similar feeling of that emotion, and
Right.
they can like pull back and be like, oh, that's what you've been. This is why you've been like passing me up and not speaking, or you
Hmm.
know this is why you've been wanting to fight at school all the time, and you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Because we don't give our Black boys those words.
You don't.
Not at all. Not at all.
silence, silence.
And you know, as a black male, you're always operating in fear, fear or being feared.
Yeah.
See, and with that, it's okay to say I'm afraid. But we've been taught that's not macho. You can't
Mm-hmm.
say, you can't express that. You're Whenever you see a police officer turn on the lights behind you, fear
Right.
sets in. When the white lady or whomever clutches their purse, you're being feared,
Mm-hmm.
right? So dealing with those things, you have to be able to say that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid of that.
Yeah.
That hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot be afraid to release those emotions and allow yourself to open up and realize that you're able to feel, which clears your emotions and your mental.
Mm-hmm. I think, and
On
on the
that,
other, I think on the other end too, for women, because men have been raised in that way, then women have been raised in the opposite, and trained that this is what men are supposed to be and do, and how they're supposed to act. So that
Mm-hmm.
even I think I saw a TikTok one day where this lady was like, well, I need me a strong man that cry a lot, like so it's like it's towing the line all the time and stuff like that. And so also, so men are not also able to go to their wives and be vulnerable, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of men that I've talked to, and I think in the men's group, the Cycle Breaker men's group, I have posed that question, like, what makes you not be vulnerable? What makes you not talk about your feelings? And so
Mm-hmm.
many men were like, well, if I show my feelings, if I show my vulnerabilities, if I cry, if I express any form of quote unquote weakness, she gonna throw it in my face at some point.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They weaponize your trauma.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's one thing that we as men are really afraid of. That's why a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us don't open up emotionally, because how many times do have we been in situations where we do express a vulnerability to someone? It doesn't even have to be your woman, it could be anybody, but as soon as they get mad, they throw it in your face.
Right.
You
Right.
Yeah.
know, and the thing is, and that's what I want to harken back to this point too about therapy, is that you have to make sure you're doing it for you. You can't do it for anybody else. It's the
Nah.
same as overcoming
Yes.
addiction. You can't quit drugs for your kids, for your mama, for big mama, for your wife. You have to do it for yourself. And that's really the thing about therapy too, because you can't just go to therapy once, twice a week and not do the work outside of that as
Out
well.
of therapy, right.
So
Right.
there's so many elements that tie into it, and you really have to commit to it. It's a commitment. Therapy is a
Mhm.
commitment.
It is.
And many of us already have issues with commitment. So I can see
Mhm.
why this is another challenge, why this is something that we have to really endeavor to improve upon as a people, because by us not doing it, it's manifesting itself in so many negative ways.
Yeah.
And that brings me to this video you guys were just talking about on why men don't do the therapy and afraid to express their feelings.
Mhm.
This is the
Do you
video
think
here.
real
Check
men
it out.
cry? What? Yeah, no, he like cried and I got super.
Yeah, men cry. We just don't do it in front of you. And we definitely don't do it for public opinion. All right? We don't need that type of validation. That's just how men are. All right? If there's a situation that we have to dedicate some emotional time to, cool, we'll dedicate some emotional time to it. But those times are very short lived and we get over it very quickly. That's just how men are. And you need to be able to respect that. For the most part, a man's emotions are his prized possession. We don't just give it away to anybody. And we're not just out there boo-hooing for the sake of boo-hooing. That's not how it works. You understand? If there's a chaotic situation, we need to be able to lead through those situations in a logical way. And we understand that our emotions are going to get in the way and hinder that effect.
That's a real dangerous way of thinking, I have to say.
Okay.
Suicide by men, that's on the rise. We
Yes.
are struggling.
Uh-huh.
Our emotions are ours, and I know a lot of us we talk about with men in relationships. I've always thought that we give women one chance when it comes to our emotions. We open up. We're gonna give you one shot.
One chance. You got one shot.
What's going on? This is what's happening. how you respond to that situation will define the rest of that relationship. Either I'm going to tell you more or I'm going to tell you nothing else. But no matter what, we have men who are going through things, and it's a lot manlier to talk about your problems than to hold them. Because when you hold them, when you store them, the way we deal with it is low self-esteem. Nobody else is going through the struggle like I am. I don't need to live anymore. It's easy to be stoic. It's harder to open up and be vulnerable, which is sometimes can be seen as a dirty word. But there are men a lot who look like us who are struggling with whatever trauma, whatever issues, and we feel like we're by ourselves, and we aren't. Whatever I'm going through, I got a friend who's probably going through it, but is doing the same thing I am. He's not talking about it. God forbid these two men get together and say, yo, I'm struggling. I don't know what's going on. I'm in my relationship. My wife doesn't want to sleep with me. I got all these things going on. I think I have erectile. Whatever shit is going on with men. And you get another brother say, you know what? That stuff has been happening to me too. Now you're not by yourself.
Right.
Now you're two people talking about it. Now you struggle together. You don't struggle alone. We have to talk. We have to open up. So my emotions are special. They are important. They're mine. But it's incumbent on me to find somebody to listen to me, to find somebody, whether it's a trained professional, whether it's a friend, somebody. Because in the end, I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna get there. I tried a long time ago. This is something that we do. We get to that point where we feel there's nothing left.
Right.
And we need to know. I got a few other men in here. I'm going through some ish right now. I got to be able to talk to you. And I have to trust that you're not going to judge me. And I have to trust that me getting it off of my system is going to make me better, just in general. We can't hold on to this. We're human, just like anybody else.
Because he hit it on the head with the research, and that's why I posted that. How the suicide rate has risen, just like he said. And we had said on a previous podcast that I was shocked that men of color was even thinking suicide, because that was just something that was unthought of or heard of. And then they even said that it's more deaths that occurred due to suicide, but it's written off as drug overdoses.
Thank you. That's what I was about to say. If it's not documented.
You know, let's we've been talking about sort of heterosexual type of topics. So let's flip the coin.
Right.
So now we have men and women out there that can't be themselves.
Come on.
And their sexuality, because they're ashamed, and the black it's more acceptable now, but it's still taboo.
It's still stigma.
It's still taboo to be labeled a homosexual or being being in that lifestyle.
Right.
You know, so I can imagine the type of pressures that they receive, you know, having to maintain themselves as heterosexual when they know that they're actually another way, and dealing with all of those emotions of trying to be what society says they should be, or how they should be, and not relating to their true identity, which is bisexual or homosexual.
Right.
And we like to talk about society, but it's us. We are so hard on ourselves.
So hard.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of people we could blame for things. But when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to masculinity, we don't have to look far.
No.
We don't have to look far at all. It's the brother next to you. It's the usher at church.
I was just about to say the church.
It's anybody. We hurt ourselves just because we're not a certain way. So as many struggles, as many problems that we have from the world, from society in general, we got a lot of work to do right on our own
community.
Right. I need to be able to look at, we are black men, we are so hard on each other, especially if you're bi or whatever. Black women are tough. It's all of us. We have so much work to do, but we got to start in the middle of the circle and work our way out. We torture ourselves just because of who we love.
And one important thing as far as black men, so much of our identity and self-esteem and pride and everything is tied into this sense of masculinity that no one can really define in the first place. that
Right.
that it's, I mean, even in the LGBTQ community, a gay man, I see a gay man, that's still a man. That I mean, that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? So we oftentimes, we don't know none of, okay, let me put it this way. We all have a general idea of what a man is. Right. Most of us do.
Right.
But what does that really mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And then we are letting women try to define to us what we're supposed to be when they have no idea.
No.
So we have to define that within ourselves to develop a healthy sense of masculinity. My sense of masculinity may look radically different from yours.
Thank you.
And that's okay.
Thank you.
But as long as I come to you, the human being, with respect and love, that's all that matters. So we need to stop letting other people define us. We need to stop letting other people define what's normal for us as black men. We're all individuals. We are not a monolith.
That's
so
right.
we need to stop acting
So true. I got to jump in. We talk about masculinity. I'm going to give the example here. We have determined masculinity is black man, head of the household. He's working. He goes out, brings home the bacon. Wife is at home, pregnant, all that. I am the antithesis of what that is.
You sure are. Yep.
My wife is the one who works. We started a business. She's out there. She's making money. I am a stay-at-home father of 4. I am not a black masculine man. Come at me. Come find my kids. You'll find out how masculine I am. I am as masculine as anyone, and I am not defined by my mores or whatever I'm supposed to do. I raise my kids. I am a father.
That's right.
And that is a man. That is a black man. I'm as a black man, who's a welder, who's a garbage man, who does whatever.
Yeah.
We have to stop deciding what being a man is and just let men be men. Every single man is different.
Yeah.
Every single man is different. I'm as much man as any of you, and likewise, we are all men. And let's just let men be men. I don't need to be judged by people telling me what is and what isn't. And I'm comfortable in that. And we all need to be comfortable in that. I have a wife, an intelligent, bad woman who goes out to work and handles business. My kids are raised to be confident, comfortable in their blackness. 3 daughters. I take as much pride as raising my daughters as a black man will take and go into the office and being an accountant or being an attorney. And we have to remind ourselves what that means and make sure we put the importance where it needs to be, everywhere. Father, friend, I work out, whatever I do. And when we recognize and are comfortable with being men, being our kind of man, whatever man I need to be, will be better for everybody else because we spend less time judging and more time just being men in general.
Right. And I think that comes down to that social construct that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
It's just it's socialization, how we were taught we were supposed to be.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
We're indoctrinated.
There you go.
It's indoctrination in terms of our sense of masculinity. It goes back to slavery.
Goes back to slavery.
Goes back to slavery.
So much does. So much does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm always surprised when my wife goes out by herself and people notice she just had a baby, and they were like, "Where's your baby?" Well, she's with her father, and they seem to be so surprised by that. Wow, you're out without the baby attached to your titty. You know what I'm saying? Well, he's capable of taking care of our child. Yes, I mean that just baffles me how people still subjected to those antiquated ways that and stereotypes, and if we can move away from all of that and realize what times we're in, like, and I have to say, Harvey, back when, before my mind was opened up and you saying that you were a stay-at-home dad, I would have had some judgment. But now I see and I understand why a man is able to stay at home and take care of his kids. because there are no more um, uh, stereotypical norms when it comes to a
Right.
relationship or a marriage.
Mhm.
It's whatever works for that couple.
Exactly.
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 And with
So
that being
true.
said, he's still the leader and he's still the head per se. She respects him as the leader. She's go out there, she makes the money, but the fact that he's at home with 4 kids, that shows that she's trusting his leadership.
That's right.
And that dollar
Mhm.
that she brings in, if he say he thinks it needs to go over here instead of over there, she's going to give him that, and it's going to go where it needs to go. So he still carries his role. And so instead of it being a gender role where the man go out and make the bacon and he bring it home and she cook it, there's reverse
Hmm.
per se from the norm, but it's still a normal running functional household from what I gather.
It's
Definitely. And
fluid.
Austin, if I hear another person tell me, "Oh, look at you babysitting your kids," I'll
Bruh.
show you a man right then and there.
Bruh.
I'm not babysitting anybody. I'm raising my children.
Raise.
I'm
Not
not
how
a
many
part
you
of their
have, how many you
lives.
raise.
This is
Yeah.
our
Mhm.
family. This is what we do.
Right.
Being a
Yeah.
parent is a job, and it's a job that I value and that I take so seriously. And
Right.
when we talk like that, there's no more man in this world as a man who's with his kids in their life. I wake these kids
Mhm.
up, bus stop, lunch, homework, all that stuff. I'm cultivating lives.
Come on,
What's more
man.
manly than that?
Bruh.
I'm
Mhm.
putting
Bruh.
3 daughters out in the world who are going to respect themselves,
Come
respect
on.
their partners,
Come on.
respect society. I have a 19-year-old son who knows how to treat a woman because he saw me how I treat my wife.
Come on.
I open my doors, he knows to do the same. This
Mhm.
It's so valuable. Money is one thing,
Mhm.
influence is so much more. So
Mm.
Yeah.
much more. My kids are good, and you know why? It's because of me and my wife.
That's right.
That's it. Money
There you go.
comes and goes. A respectable, powerful citizen, somebody who's going to lead this
Right.
new generation in society,
Thank you.
that's better than any money I can hand you. I'm putting
Yeah.
good people into this world. That's a
Because
black
that's our
man
job
doing
as
that.
parents, right? To
That's
raise
what
good
this
human
is.
beings.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'll take that man over somebody who brings a whole bunch of money in because the money's
Right.
going to go, but that good person's going to last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have a client whose parents took care of her financially very well, but she emotionally void.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
and she's struggling now to develop relationships because they didn't pour into her as they should have. You know,
Mhm.
and so
And
now her self-esteem, her self-worth, and her ability to connect is hard. It is
But see,
hard.
Austin
She's
Austin
successful.
brought up,
You know, she's successful. She got a good job. She making
yeah.
that money and all that stuff, and they're proud of that. But she's struggling in her
and
everyday.
and what has the most lasting effect, right? The dollar that I spend on you, or the time that I put into you.
Damn
Time's
right.
way more
But
valuable.
I
than
wanna
that.
I
There
Exactly.
you
wanna
go.
circle back to when you said they were shocked that you was at home watching the baby or babysitting your daughter.
Right.
Um, that's really not, I guess, stereotype. It's just that majority of the modern men of today don't do that. They did it all the time in the 80s, 70s, uh, 80s, and maybe early 90s. Man stay at home, woman go to the store and get stuff. But today's men, a lot of the newer modern day men not staying at home with that child. Um, they make the woman take it with them. And I bet you the person who said that 8 times out of 10 was part of that modern day relationship dating or with a man that's, hey, if you leave, take the kid with you. Because a lot of men get women to do that these days.
Well,
I see that all the time. I hear because I being around the younger guys that rap and all that, I hear them say, "Yo, you finna go to the store? Let me get Sarah ready. Let me get Sheila ready." Or she already know to get the baby ready because she don't want to hear his mouth because he either gonna be playing the game or he ain't got time to watch it. He gonna be smoking, riding with his friends. So the mother is the one that's usually with the child. But when you're settled and you're a gentleman or respect your wife and the relationship or your woman and the child and all that, that's just, it's not a job. That's just what you do.
Right. And I realized that my wife is here. She's off now. So I realized her being at home with the baby every day. Our baby's 37 days old or something like that. I realized that she needs a break. She needs a break mentally. She needs a break physically. Because if she doesn't receive that break mentally and physically, then she will break. And so I do
Agreed.
not want to put that type of pressure on her.
You're rare, the newer generation don't understand that talk that you're doing now. But
that's because they don't understand relationships as a team.
Right.
It's a team. It's y'all working together toward greater purpose, to raise these kids, to build a family and build a great life together. And they see themselves as so separate from one another that they just don't operate as a team.
Right.
True.
Right.
True.
yeah, it's
It's
teamwork
important.
now. It's always been teamwork. Even with Big Mama and them, it was more teamwork. But with the role, Big Mama was the one, like my man said, pregnant, at home, raising the kids, and the man was out there making the bacon, making the money.
But that was
in
those
today's
times,
time,
though. That was those times because women wasn't in the
time. In
workforce.
today's times, it's whatever fits your household. Each man on this panel at one point felt like I need to be the one doing everything. At one point in his life, before he got married with children, before he started having children or whatever, I need to go out here and be this provider, be this, be this, be that, be that. Because that's what a lot of us seen. Even that's what was thrown in our face, from the Cosby shows to whatever. That's what was thrown in your face.
But the thing that we hear all the time nowadays is black men. I don't know if gentlemen agree or disagree that we're expendable. We ain't needed. She don't need us. We don't need to be there.
They don't. And we talk about this almost every podcast we didn't have. That topic there gonna pop up. The woman do not need the black man.
But that's also a systemic issue.
It's systemic.
It is.
Yeah.
But in our minds, like once I hear that, or I feel that way, I'm emotionally checked out.
Understandable.
I'm done. It's a systemic issue, but it's still an issue. And that's another.
It's a mindset that has to be changed and restructured.
But a lot of men fall into that though, because they feel that way because the government gave her the house.
Right.
The government giving her the welfare check. The government giving her the food stamp.
Right.
He moves in with her.
Well,
so when she says she don't need no man, she really don't, because Uncle Sam's giving her everything that the black man would be providing had she not been in the system. So when you say systematic, that's what I see.
And that's what I mean by systemic. That's when that started. That's when, because black men were in the households, taking care of business, being with their families. And then when that era came where everybody got assistance and you can't have no man in your house or we cutting you off, right? But the black man can't get a job that's going to take care of everything. So she need that assistance. So they created that rule to break that family up, right? And so then she became having this mentality. And he's doing the best he can out here, but the system ain't allowing him to do well, right? And so now she's got to raise these kids by herself. Even if he want to do what he got to do, he can't get a job, or he can't get, whatever it is that's stopping him from getting what's necessary, right? And no, you can't move in here, because if they find your shoes here, because they come and do checks, and they're gonna put me on.
Since you're saying that, I look back and see, that's why I say this is therapeutic, and it makes me, her saying what she said took me back 20 years when I would see that confident man that I once seen, that's now the wino on the goddamn corner.
Oh man.
Because he had that relationship. He had this woman, and then she started getting assistance. She got her. They gave her place because she wanted her on. He moved her in, but once she found out she qualified for assistance, they wasn't married. She took the child and got her own place because she wasn't happy. So he still was trying to be there, but once the stamps and everything, and he wasn't needed. And I'm like, he just kind of left his job and started drinking because they broke up. And I'm like, dude, life still go on. But that wasn't enough to turn him around. He chose to be there. He's still a wino, and that's been 20 years ago. He's still asking for nickels and dimes whenever I go into the city. And I'm seeing him, dude, you still up here. You was successful. You ran, he was independent. He had beeper shops. He had cell phones. He ran. I
He
didn't
lost
get
that
it.
which was most valuable to him.
But the thing
He should have went to therapy.
You let a woman bring you down is what my mentality. You know, I'm typical.
Here's the thing, but here's the
You
thing.
let a piece of ass turn you into trash.
On the surface, yes, but see, here's the thing: our sense of masculinity is so tied in to feeling needed.
Come on,
because,
man.
like I said, if I don't, once I don't feel needed, I'm emotionally, I'm done. So a lot of times, yeah, you're right. We do let that break us because what I hear from women all the times: I don't need a man. I don't need this. I don't need. Well, then what you? I mean, you know, and we need to seek therapy to try to fix that within ourselves as men. But that's something I see as a big problem. You know, because as men, we're taught we're supposed to be needed. And once we're not, we check out, or we stop doing. Many of us check out and stop doing those things that we're supposed to do.
So
I want
George,
to say, can I real quick? I just want to say through all of these issues, everything that's thrown at us black men as fathers, we continue to be the most active and present in our children's lives.
Come on.
They're finding ways to keep us away from our children, from that relationship, and we're still number one. The whole myth of the missing black father, that's garbage.
That's a myth.
We have all this stuff happening, but push comes to shove, I'm helping my kids with my homework. I'm taking them to football practice. I'm reading with them at night. I'm helping them take the pacifier out. I'm doing all this stuff. I am active. The black father is so important, and we know it, and we fighting to stay in the house. And we have to remember, we got to give ourselves flowers. We got to remind ourselves, no matter how much crap they're throwing at us, there's no more present father than a black one.
That's right.
Never need to forget that.
That's right.
So I remember being out with my son, you know, when he was 2 and 3, because I took him everywhere, and I always get asked, where's his mother? Well, what the difference does it make where she is? I'm his father. He's with me. So I definitely understand where you're coming from in that regard.
So George, I have a question for you. When you say that when you no longer feel needed, you normally emotionally check out.
Right.
What does that mean? What does being needed mean? What does being needed mean to you?
Here's the thing. It's not so bad now because I've been in therapy and I've processed that, but back in the past, it was so tied into my need to feel needed, was so tied into my sense of masculinity. When I didn't feel needed, I felt like less of a man. So then it was like, well, then why am I here?
So can you give me an example what you mean that you weren't needed? Money wise, protection wise, what are those things that you tied into being needed?
A lot of stuff during the pandemic because during the pandemic we were all affected economically, and many of us could not do the things that we necessarily felt like we were supposed to do, and that caused a lot of problems with relationships, but it caused problems internally. So when you felt as though you can't necessarily do the things you want to do, you feel less needed, even if it's not necessarily articulated by your mate. You may feel it internally because it's so tied into your sense of masculinity. And if you put too much weight on your sense of masculinity, it can be a detriment. And that's what happened in my case at that time.
Yeah, okay. It's understandable. And see, my one issue that I've had and that I still struggle with is I like to do things for my wife or my significant other financially, right? And if I do not have the means to do those things, my self-worth kind of diminishes somewhat.
Right.
And I still struggle with that. Although I know my wife isn't that type of person, You know, I still like to buy her stuff, you know, and give her stuff, money, do things that way, take care of this, take care of that. And when I'm not in a situation to do so, that
Right.
still bothers me.
Right.
And I still haven't gone back to identify where that actually stems from.
Right.
And
Well, Chris Rock had a quote, and I'm probably not going to mess this up. Something about a man only has value when he has something to offer.
Right.
It's kind of true. I'm not saying it's true, but I feel that statement because I've noticed if I don't have anything to offer, a lot of times people kind of come up ghosts. You look at things when you have resources and when you don't. Not saying that people do it intentionally, but because that's the sense of masculinity that's often pervasive in our society. If you don't have anything to offer, it's tied to your self-worth. It's tied to how you see yourself and how others see you. So that's an ugly quote. I wish it were not true, and I hate even attaching the word "true" to it, but it does have some validity.
Because we're gonna have a discussion on that. I said the panel was gonna do, because me personally, I like to know who I'm dating, and I don't care for the gold diggers and all that stuff. So when I meet certain women, we don't do expensive restaurants because I want to know where you are. If they don't know nothing about my bank account, I don't flash. Let's go to the just most expensive restaurant. Let's go to Ruth Chris on the first date. I don't do none of that. My thing is the one I'm married to, our first date, supposedly I'll say going out to eat type things. We went to her sister was working at McDonald's. That heifer snuck some burgers out and gave it to us. And we would sit in the parking lot. She acted like she had to do something, and she was taking an order to somebody else and snuck us some burgers and fries. So mine, I'm making sure I'm not getting that one that I have to go and get extravagant things 24/7. She's gonna like me for who I am. And then when I do jump up and do the just because gifts, oh boy, go on Facebook. I buy flowers and she just blow her mind, and I might get them from Kroger. Hell, it ain't no big deal for me, So it's not. I don't go out. I don't have to do that. But when we go out on trips and things, I spoil anything I know she wants, and that she really, really, really want. I'll go out my way to get that. But you don't want that person to become like they say, like you guys are saying that the Chris Rock quote, a man is loved by what he can provide, where a child or an animal can be loved unconditional. A man is only loved by what he can provide. No, I'll never fall in that damn category.
Let me ask a question, and from a woman's point of view, because I've heard it said that that's how men were created, or men were created in such a way that they have this sense of needing to provide and protect, and that's just how they built. And so when they can't do that, then they feel less than. How true is that? That's true.
I feel like that's true. Yeah, but like I say, going out and getting $3,000 earrings, that's not
necessarily providing. That's that's extravagant, right?
That's extravagant. But as far as providing, I feel like that's true to a degree.
Okay.
But when you're married or you guys living together and you guys have an understanding under your roof in your household, it's flexible.
Right.
Just like with my man down there that's at home with the kids. The bills are being met.
Right.
Their situation is different.
And like Harvey said,
he's still providing.
Is not providing financial, but he's providing the home for the kids, and the raising and the rearing of the kids, right?
Exactly.
So can that be challenged as a mentality of what the definition of providing
is? There you go. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Thinking the
So
same.
you can
Yeah.
still provide, but
Because
because everybody makes a contribution, right?
the thing is this right now, and the definition goes both ways depending on the maturity of your mental. Women have to bring more to the table than pretty face and slim waist and a nice ass. Because we see that anywhere. We can get that in it. It's like I say on almost every pocket. It's a pretty
there's a
bitch on
physical
every
aspect
corner.
to it.
You can find a pretty woman on any corner nowadays. So a woman has to bring more. Now, when I say more, I'm not speaking financial.
Right.
She's gonna have to bring time, attention. You know, it's different things that falls into that. Emotional support. You know, I need a fan. I need somebody that's gonna lift me up. I need that.
Yeah.
It's not financial. So when I say she needs to bring more to the table, just because you look good and you think your sex the bomb, I get that, and I don't pay for it. Never have, and ain't about to start. So that's not an issue.
Right.
And I have a nice looking woman. So that's not. I always had nice looking women. So that is not a star in your feather in your hat to me. Bring more to the table. I need somebody who's going to listen, who's going to understand, who's going to be there when I need her to be there for conversation, who's going to listen. I need things like that.
Right.
I don't need. I can go get somebody who look good with slim waist, pretty face, and a nice ass anyway. That's
And you know, and unfortunately, there have been a number of say black women that have fallen into that way of thinking that a high valued man is one that has a lot of money or a large bank account.
Right.
And but when you have that type of person, or when they are only giving financial and they're not giving emotional,
Right.
then their bank account is full, but your needs are empty.
Right. Yeah.
So you are still not fulfilled in the areas that you need to feel good in, that feed those endorphins. Those are being left out.
Right.
So if you get that Louis or that Prada or that Gucci, that only lasts for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why in my research I found out that the relationships, a lot of the relationships that last beyond 4.5 years, which is the expected relationship marriage of people of color that's non-Hispanic, are the ones that when they got into the relationship, they kind of build together. He wasn't 100% making 100,000, 80,000, 100,000 a year. She wasn't making 100,000, 80,000. They came together and they're building and they're maintaining those, because as my man said, when he felt back in the day, if he felt unneeded, it was a deal breaker. You know what I'm saying? When they're in it building together, she needs him, he needs her, they need each other, they're working together because they want to. Those are the relationships that last.
Right.
But if she walk in there, well, I got my own, I don't need you, I don't want you for this and that, I don't want no, I don't need no black man, I don't want no black man. And then he's sitting up in there, well, hell, I ain't never needed nobody for nothing, I'm my own man, da 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 da. You have to find some type of common ground and build together. Whether it's if both of them are stable financially, that becomes a want. I want to be with you. Right. I'm not with you because you got the roof over the head and I'm driving your car to get to and from work. Because if you look at those relationships, when she get her own car, watch how it's way. When he get his own vehicle, if he living out using her vehicle, when he get his own, watch how that sway. So the couples that last are the ones that's building together. They're coming together on one accord, and that's to make each other better. Those are the ones that last.
I have a question. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So with regard, because I often, on the podcast we talk about like the differences between old school and currently, the addition of social media and all of that. What is y'all's opinion about younger gentlemen and their mental health, and as compared to 40s, 50-year-old men who were taught to hold the things in, right, and all that stuff. Are younger generations better at opening up or being vulnerable or talking about the mental health stuff? Do y'all think?
Depends on how old they are. I think the pendulum sometimes with our young people swings too far in the other direction, but
True.
that'll be corrected as they gain age, wisdom, and maturity. So an 18-year-old is probably overly expressive, overly emotional, overly. But probably once a lot of this generation hits about 30, I think you'll see a balance. I think you'll see the things that they've been able to express through social media, through certain avenues that we did not have. Like I said, tempered with life experience. I think they'll be all right. But right now, it's just you have our generation and our parents that was so far to the right as far as holding things in, being repressed. But right now, this generation, I would say the 10 to 25-year-olds, they're so far as far as being
the other way.
Yeah, but it's just going to take time to even out, and then I think you'll see some synergy and some balance in the long run.
With the young black men these days,
they're clocking out. A lot of them, they can't take the pressure. It seems like to me. That's why I say young black men commit suicide more than 3 times the rate of black women.
well, and I think one of the things is they're not seeing what life has to offer them.
Yeah,
They're
you said
not
that one time before.
Yeah, they're not seeing their worth. They're not being told that they're worth something. So if you're told you're worthless and no one's building into you your worth, then you yourself no longer matters. So you're more apt to do self-harm, you know. So and I think that the being desensitized to a lot of things in life these days, uh, murders, sexuality, and not having a definition, whatever that definition of a man is, and how it fits into their lives and how they identify of what that role means to them. They haven't they don't have that identity to or anyone to instill into them what they need to do to identify what a man
Okay,
is to
now
them.
that you say that though, someone brought up tonight, the guy that just left, the definition of a man. Okay, um, being that it's different for everyone, I feel like just kind of like religion, it's different for everyone. But the way I did when I went to Jackson State, okay, my parents originally the household was Baptist. Then I moved in with my sister. She was Catholic, so I started doing the Catholic Hail Mary. Then when I went to Jackson State, I got open to a whole lot of stuff. Yahweh, I was a 5%er, part of the Nation of Islam. And I learned so much. John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. That's who they started that they thought was Jesus. And when they say he came back from the dead, it wasn't Jesus, it was John the Baptist. So I studied and seen a whole lot. But then I sat back and I started thinking, what's common in all of those religions is there is a creator. And so when I pray to the creator because all of them are praying. Even Buddhism, all of them are praying to someone who's a higher form, a being, some creator. So when you say being a man, are there certain characteristics a man should have? Whether it's the sense of leadership, should he be a man of a household? Leading the wife and the children if he has on a wig and a dress. I mean, so at some point we got to draw the line, since everybody say a man is what you perceive a man is.
But that's also cultural, though.
Right.
It's also there's differences in culture, right?
Mhm.
You know, a leader or head of a tribe, you know, in Africa looks very different from other things, right? You know, but in like Saudi Arabia and so on, like they have turbans, and maybe in America only women wear scarves on their heads, you know. So all of that is cultural and
Yeah,
based
but if
on, you
when
know,
you say being a man though, should he put on lipstick and switch and talk flamboyant? I mean,
Does it take? Okay, so being a man to me is dealing with your genitalia. You are a man, right?
mm,
No matter if you put a wig on, you're a man with a wig on, right?
mm,
okay.
Now, so what you do of what people have placed on the the roles of a man.
mm,
So that's a difference to me. What the roles of a man is versus what a man is.
Okay. So what you're saying is if you're born with a third leg and some balls, you a man.
Yeah,
Once you over puberty, once you 18 plus, you a man.
yeah, you're a man.
You're a man. But if they
Is
Again,
it gay?
you're a
It's
gay
still a
man.
man.
You're a man.
You're
You're
a
a
gay
gay
man.
man.
You're a
You're a
man.
man who prefers the company of other men.
Another man.
But it's still a man.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
make you
So
less of a man?
yeah. So it again, the
okay,
definition that we have to look at is what the roles of a man is, not a
is he a
man
man? If he
himself.
got balls, whether he or not, he a man.
Man.
Fight.
Even though he don't want to be a man, he act like a female, he walk like a female. But the fact that he was born with genitals and a penis, he's a male.
Yeah.
Well, I think we might be kind of muddying the water, confusing maybe gender
Yeah.
identity with
It's a
Well,
homosexuality.
different
sexuality.
identity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
you gotta
because
do it. You need something
when
different.
I heard the
And,
statement
and,
was
and you're not
the
talking.
man is what we perceive it to be ourselves.
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't know. At some point, a lady know what a lady, society. Even though we like to go against society, we go against the norms, but society sets a lot of things.
Certain standards, right?
Mhm.
Not yeah, they set the standards. Not saying that we have to 100%, but we kind of know that wearing me going shirtless at a black tie affair,
hmm
I know it's wrong.
But
I
again,
know I don't
there's
supposed to
a
wear that.
societal social standard based upon where you're going.
Right.
That is what is allowed in this arena, right? And
Right.
stuff like that, right? But we challenge norms all the time. Though there was a time that at award shows they only dress to the nines, and now they wear jeans and high top sneakers,
And
right?
blazers.
Used to not
Yeah.
be
Oh, they go in
norm.
there like
It was
sexy red
challenged,
and
and
get
then
in
it
the
was
middle of the
accepted,
damn
and then they did
crowd
Yeah.
and
So
saying Pound Town in front of Bobby Jones. It's like it's no respect.
Well, social
But that
norms.
can say that's a different, topic.
Yeah.
But
just because something is norm does not mean it's right. Slavery used to be norm,
Social
right?
norm.
Right.
It
Right.
was a social norm, but it wasn't right. You know what I'm saying? And so,
well,
you have
I
to
mean,
use-
I understand that when it comes to slavery, but if it's a black tie affair and you in there in I'm gonna say that girl twerking in front of Bobby Jones, doing her ass in front of Bobby Jones, hollering about her booty hole brown. It's not. What would that be considered? Normal? I
so
mean,
now we're talking about social etiquette.
Yeah, now
Right.
We're talking about
Right.
social etiquette now.
Right.
You know,
right,
nowhere does it say class is a social norm.
right.
Right.
So
Ignorant people will be ignorant. You know.
Right.
And again, teaching people.
but that's why I say I understand it when it comes to slavery, but it's just certain things that we're trying to force to be normal that I don't think is
Well,
new.
I'll
now
say
we're,
what
we're
I learned in graduate school. One of the first things they told us was they were like, "What is normal?"
Right.
And one of the things that they say was it's a setting on the washing machine.
It is.
Right.
Nothing.
There's
No such thing as normal.
You know, the typical
therapy, and they say, "I just want to be normal." I'm like, and what does that look like?
Right.
The model of the mother, father, 2-parent household, much of that was constructed in the 40s. It's a Norman Rockwellian thing, and much of that is a fallacy.
It's a fallacy.
So that was considered normal, but if you look at back generationally, a lot of times this never really existed.
Thank you.
You know, and norms are whatever's profitable at the time.
Come on, man.
So what is socially normal in our society is normally dictated by the dollar.
Right. How much they can make money off of.
And white supremacy.
Right now.
And white supremacy.
And white supremacy.
Right. Because this was not norm, right? You know what I'm saying? Straight hair and small waistlines and small booties, and that was norm. Thus keeping black folk feeling like shame, like, you know what?
I'm thinking that was. I'm agreeing with him. That we didn't say that was a norm. I'm thinking that was more of white America.
But that's the thing. White America dictates norms.
That's yeah.
But okay. Speaking of that, so now I guess single parenting is the normal, right? That's the new normal. Single parent.
And okay. Well, it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be the new normal. It's just a way of life. It's just something that occurs.
It's a way of life. If we look at things like, if we look at history for what it is, right, and how white supremacy plays a role in it, we understand that even during the crack epidemic, right, that entire if you watch, I don't even watch the Snowfall, but that entire thing orchestrated for black men not to be in a home.
Yes.
Right. And it what that generation started was single women, independent women not relying on men in the house.
Thank you.
That was orchestrated for that reason. This is why we have the mindset that we have, because we're like, back in the day, it didn't look like that. It didn't look like that for a reason, because we didn't come over here thinking that.
No, we didn't.
Right.
That's one thing about the war on drugs. They know that many people that sell drugs are disenfranchised black men, and they set up the laws to put them away for as long as possible in order to remove us from society and from the homes.
Again, snatching men out of the home, creating a single mother.
Single mothers. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Systemic.
Absolutely.
It's interesting when it comes to therapy in the black community. You know, I'm not like a therapist and I'm not on that train, but I've recently gotten into therapy seriously, like a typical black man in this society. Like, therapy, I'm not paying nobody to sit down and act like they my friend and talk to me. This don't make no sense. Y'all stupid. Turns out they're not. Turns out it's actually beneficial. Turns out you're dealing with some trauma that you may have forgotten about, that you're suppressing, and it's impacting you in ways that you could not believe. And I'm talking about friendships, marriages with your children, your business, life, school, bills, like everything is impacted by what's going on in your brain and how you're feeling. So sitting down with a licensed professional is a great idea.
And like I said, with wisdom comes more understanding, because until of recent, I didn't see the purpose of a big, I guess what I should say, a need for therapists.
You got to unlock some stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, I blow people's minds all the time when I trace one behavior back to slavery. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I didn't even, is it by accident that black people beat their kids? No, because in slavery, that's how we got disciplined. And so that's what we learned. Right? Mm-hmm. We treat our children like they belong to us, like we are the master of them. They are property for us. Mm-hmm. Well, we learned that in slavery, right? And that's what we know. Yeah. So until we learn better and realize this is actually traumatic for our children, you know, my mother calling me fat, in her heart, she was just trying to keep me from being big and being unhealthy, but she didn't know how to do that. Right? Yeah. And so that was damaging to me and my body image. Right. Mm-hmm. Plus, when I look on TV, ain't no black girls, ain't nobody with afros. Everybody got their hair straight. Everybody got a small waist and a little booty, and then Gloria Vanderbilt jeans don't fit my booty. You know what I mean? It ain't made for me. And so there's stuff that's continuously carried down, not just through behavior, but genetically, DNA, memory is carried forth. Yeah. Right. And when you grab a hold of that and recognize that, then cycles can be broken. Then you can do something different behaviorally, even if it's outside of the norm, right? Because being beat with a switch should never be norm. It's abuse, right? Punching your kid in the face should not be norm. That's abuse. It's hurting my baby, right? And so what's norm is not necessarily what's right. It's just not. And we have to break that. We have to be courageous enough to do something different, right?
I believe in whooping ass, though.
Spatter
you
rod.
can want to, but it don't change nothing.
Spatter rod. Spatter rod.
You whip it right.
You know what you teach them? You teach them.
And the
rod,
the rod was meant to guide the sheep.
Come on now.
Right. So
that's right. The rod was meant to guide the sheep. Right.
Not to beat them.
Right. Amen.
So my thing is, my 37-day-old seems to be spoiled, right?
You can't spoil a baby,
right? you can't spoil a baby. So she needs to be held. She wants to be held. She wants to feel close to her parents. Yeah, so that's her development. That's part of her development.
Especially if you got sons. Yeah, but especially if you got sons, if you whooping your boys more than you hugging them, you messing up.
Yeah, but if you're doing it equally, a little bit more, you're doing good. So
I'll say this, that ain't my experience. I ain't ever really had to whoop my boys. They both of them fine.
Right.
I hugged them more than I whooped them because I actually communicated with them and talked to them.
Right.
I ain't never had to smack them in the head. I ain't never had to do all that because I was there from the get-go.
Right.
That OPS that my friends grew up with, like people say, my mama would be every day. Well, you ain't setting the world on fire, so how would that work for you?
Right. Thank you.
So I mean, that's what it is too.
I don't think it's necessary.
We ain't nurturing our boys enough. I ain't saying you got to spare the rod and all that, but there's other ways to teach our young black men to communicate and get over other than beating the shit out of them. That's not what it takes. You teach them how to think, how to reason. So when they get out there with the white man in the real world, they got a chance. Whooping them constantly is the only way of correcting them. Ain't doing them but making them better slaves.
There you go. Amen.
What they do, nothing.
But like you say, constantly, no. But every now and then you have to. And a mother was telling me this today. And everybody raised their kids the way they want to raise them. But I was at a volleyball game actually with my brother, and his daughter's mother was telling me that the daughter has gotten taller than her and she's beginning to be a little disrespectful. So she said, hey, I'm going to eventually have to let her know that I am mom. And if it results to me having to knock her down every blue moon, just to show her that, so it's whatever you have to do to get your respect. And like I say, it results way back to slavery, but she gives the girl everything. She's at an all-girl school where they pay $700
except guides. She getting her everything except guides. That's why she got the whooper like that. Right. I don't believe in it because I see it being.
I mean, my mama had to jack me up when I reached the height.
I'm not saying I'm gonna whoop mine.
But I operated in fear of my mother, and that should not have been. There should have been reverence.
They don't respect you. There's fear.
I should have operated in reference with my mother, and I didn't. So when I got to be her height, which wasn't before 11, so it didn't take long. I did try to get sporty. I did, and my mom would jack me up against the wall. But from that, it wasn't a matter of, I respected my mama then, or whatever. I was afraid of her.
Right.
And so,
but with you being afraid, you also showed her you knew not to get sporty no more.
I just got sneaky.
That's the wrong way. That's why our young people so messed up. That bullshit about fearing your parents. No, that's where we mess up. That's why we got them in the street. Cause see, after a while, them whoopings don't work no more.
Thank you.
Well, number one, I feel where you're going. Number one, my deal is this: I give mine all the love. I got an 8-year-old and I still kiss him daily. And if you go to TikTok, you're supposed to kiss no boy. That's it gets rude. But he's affectionate and he's the last.
Yeah.
So when he comes in, I'm like, you know, he gave me a new life, a new reason to live. Right. Mm-hmm. So when I see him and I want to kiss his forehead, I want to hug him, I'm gonna do that.
You damn Skippy.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't care what social media norm, how this look, because he's sitting on my lap and we taking a picture together, hugged up. I'm gonna do that. Right. And that's just what I do. Well, but if he get out of hand, I explain to mine why you're getting disciplined. I explain to mine why I'm taking the game from you. I explain to mine why you're not getting in the swimming pool today.
And that's appropriate.
But they said I was wrong. I just supposed to say, no, you're not going, and no, you're not getting it. Give me the game. And I'm talking about a close friend of mine. Man, you just supposed to just take it and do. You don't owe kid no explanation.
Yes, I do. They'll repeat the same thing if they don't know why.
All right. You know, my son, he's 22. I call him every day. I tell him I love him every day. He doesn't live with me. So when we do visit each other, I hug him and I still kiss him. He don't like it sometimes.
Hey, they say that's perverted.
Pretend he doesn't like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he loves his dad. Right. And he calls on his dad for everything.
Right.
You know, and he's never tried to fight me, has never tried to do anything where they say that your child is going to try to challenge you. He doesn't do that.
Good.
Yeah, because you showed him the love, and that's with me, with mine. I give them all of that love where I don't have that problem. But I do see, I also think that a lot of the parents these days, not the ones that got not the ones that have the 25-year-olds and up, but them parents that's being friends to them children today are those children that's killing other teens, that parents are afraid of them, of the parents are afraid of the kids, of the teens.
Well, what you
and
have
that is a problem that's going on. Hey, Google, when we get off here, Google unsolved murders or teen murders in Bastrop, Louisiana alone. That's where we came from.
We talked about the reason for that in Bastrop already, though.
Right.
Yeah, I want him to see that those teens, those parents, they're afraid of them. Those guys are 15, 16 years old, selling drugs, paying bills, and mama letting them do whatever. Daddy not in the household. Those daughters, 15 years old, selling their bodies, paying rent for mama. 15 now, get pregnant, 3 and 4 kids before 18. But the parents,
that would not have fit them. Whooping them more would not have fixed that, because what you already have is a negligent, incompetent parent in the first place.
Right. So how do you not talk about the fact that town has not been economically productive since the plant closed? There is a hopelessness in that town. They have nothing to live for. If my child is selling herself, or my son is selling drugs to bring money into the house, and that's how I can make it, I'm gonna have to allow that to happen because I have a hopelessness. There's nowhere for me to work. I don't have no place to go, right? So you're operating in a sense of hopelessness. Well, I can't raise these kids the way I should be able to raise these kids because there's no damn resources.
But
right?
Now the kids are jumping on the parents now.
You have to look at what
the kids wouldn't have stopped it.
They wouldn't have stopped that.
Their problems are way deeper than having time.
And then one of them I just heard 3 or 4 weeks ago in a city around that where the parent had to kill the child, and the parent got away with it as self-defense.
But how would
this was in Arkansas?
How would they have corrected it? Those problems are systemic. They way deeper than I ain't with my kid enough. Yeah. That's other stuff going on.
Beyond it.
Yeah, that's
How
beyond
did you emotionally guide your child? What did you pour into your child?
Apparently,
What?
it wasn't love and discipline at a young age. I'm thinking what's going on is the parent is afraid to discipline the kid. And when I say discipline, I ain't necessarily talking about beating them, but put some form of discipline at a young age, like
let me
3, 4, 5.
let me clue people into us. Just because you can procreate, don't mean you meant to be a parent. Dogs
That's
have
true.
puppies every day.
Lord,
Everybody
that's
ain't
the
meant to be
truth.
a parent.
That's true.
That's one thing people think you have a right to have, but no, you don't. No, you don't. Everybody, you can drive a car, you need a license, but you don't need nothing to go out here and pop out some babies.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a bunch of people that are too young, too immature, too selfish,
Yeah.
ready to have a baby, having babies, and screwing them up.
Mm-hmm.
They not
That's
mature
exactly
enough.
that's exactly what's happening because it's
That's what's
so
going on.
many young 11. One of the kids that was in my youth program was the first 11-year-old to have a child in that city, and everybody was donating money, donating Pampers, you know, and it was sad because after that they got young and younger, 10, 11, 12 years old. Like he just said, he hitting it on the head. I'm thinking that situation that I'm describing also came from what he just said. They're young, they're having these kids, and they're not parent material to begin with. So it's just
Yeah, and if
because
you have a baby having a baby.
So if just think about it, if you're a young kid having a child,
Mm-hmm.
then you probably weren't parented yourself.
Exactly.
So how do you know
how
how
to
to
parent.
parent?
Thank
Right.
you.
You don't.
Okay.
See, it goes a lot deeper than just how many times us not whooping our kids enough.
Right.
This is
Right.
systemic. This is generational, and that's why we're having these problems we're having nowadays. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not opposed to corporal punishment at all.
No, I'm not either.
But when that's your only go-to, or this your first maybe 3 to 5 options,
Right.
something's lacking there.
Right. Yeah, I feel
You
like
know,
that's
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
the
And
times
and,
that
and,
I
and,
have put my hands on my kids. It's
and
been
like
a
he
last
say,
resort.
and like he said now, and I totally respect and agree with everything he said because he broke it down. Because if he would have just left it hanging, I would have been like, nah. But like he said, if that's your first 5 options, it's something
You're
wrong
not doing nothing.
because that's not mine at all. I'm gonna talk to you. I'm gonna show you another way. I'm gonna tell you how I came up and what you need to do. I'm gonna show you the better way. You do everything right,
Take
you
the
get
Xbox.
everything
I'm
you
gonna
want.
take the phone. I'm gonna remove the things you love.
Take the Chromebook. And like Shawnnell said, I tried that. Change the Wi-Fi code.
I do.
right.
I love
You're
that.
not going to use the Wi-Fi. Okay,
I don't
so
even take
you
the
do all
phone.
of that.
I
And
don't even
then if
take the
they
phone. I
still
pay
go
for the
on,
phone. I don't take
if
the
they
phone. I go in
still
the
go
system to
on,
cut it off and change the
if they
Wi-Fi
sneak,
code.
if they sneak and get the Chromebook and go to Discord and start back texting 20-year-old men at 13 years old, creating a fake profile, and they constantly doing that.
Then
At some point,
at
I
that
done
point,
tried
yeah,
talking
you got to
because my mom used to say, I tried talking to you. I tried taking things from you. I tried doing this, tried doing that. Now it's time for her to whoop my ass.
And I'm gonna get into
So it wasn't the first choice. And I used to push
that.
mine.
Even
I
outside
pushed
of
mine.
beating her behind, if there's a young girl that's seeking the attention of grown ass men, then she need to be in a therapy room figuring out what's going on with her psychologically that she is seeking that kind of attention. Because then I would guess or wonder, has she been touched?
Right.
I would want to know that.
Right. Because we have to start examining the reason behind our kids' behavior.
Yes.
I got a son with that had a mental illness. No matter how much I would have whooped him,
it's not gonna fix that.
good. That's not gonna fix that.
Yeah.
And so I get a little salty when people say, "Well, you're not doing." No, I did the best I could. He all right.
This is the result of he has a mental illness, and so there are certain behaviors
and
that
that's not absolving him of any responsibility.
No, he's still responsible for his behavior, but you need to teach him different.
But when the mother told me about that situation, that no matter what she did, the girl still was finding a way to text different people at random that she didn't know. And then that's what I said. I said, the father is in and out of the life. He's not really a part.
Right.
So apparently, maybe she's seeking the love from a father that's not there.
Right.
Because she say, no matter what I do, I done did this, I done that. And I was like, well, maybe. I say, how's her father? How's her and her father? Well, he don't talk to, he call every blue moon. They may do a Zoom session. And I was like, okay, but he's not in. They in two different states. She never really knew the father. So maybe it's an act out because she's not getting that love from that father. So I agree with both of you all that it may be deeper than, because it's a reason. Because if the mother showing her love, the uncles and everybody loving her, and she's still seeking this, it's something missing.
And then that circles us back around to the fact that the father needs to heal his stuff so he can be there for his kids. So a little bit of therapy will do. You know what I'm saying?
Also, he's going to therapy, being aware of the fact that he may not change no matter how much therapy he gets or she gets.
Yeah, because after so many years, once that girl was like 16 and the father hadn't been a part of the life, like talking about since she was maybe 2 years old. So that I don't think even with the father coming around now, because the mother trying to make them, mingle. I don't think with him coming, because I learned when a child turns 13, 12 and 13, if you wasn't in their lives, they pretty much who they are. Right. That child is who they are. And then when they get 16, 17.
Well, see, the thing is, it doesn't matter who they are because their personality is going to be their personality. But you can change certain things about them to help them further on, down the line. So.
Yeah.
And so
it's still beneficial for him to be there and be present and show the love and, and develop a relationship that still can be valuable in that child's life. I don't care how old they are.
Because what can happen, she can start seeking. That's how you start meeting these men that don't mean you well.
Right.
And you falling for any man because you feel the need to have a man. Not the best man.
That's why on a previous podcast, I told you with mine, I tell her she's beautiful. I show her love every day. So she's not going to be out there just seeking love from a stranger, because hell, when I tell her she's beautiful and we riding around and I'm hugging on her and she's like, my dad does that.
Right.
So when those guys at school push up on her, telling her, "Oh, you so beautiful," man, my dad tell me that.
Right.
And then she come tell me what they saying. I say, and you are beautiful. Right. I say it's just that you got to watch who telling you out there that you're beautiful.
Right.
Because everybody who say you're beautiful is not just complimenting your looks; they have other agendas, and you just gotta decipher.
Don't think like that won't affect her at some point too, because she's going to develop the mentality that of course he think I'm beautiful. He my daddy. Because my girls even told me that, Mama, it's like you have to say I'm pretty because you're my mom. Like, kids are smart, right? And so, not that that's not good and effective, because I'm always telling them they're beautiful, right? And stuff like that. But understand that it does feel different when a partner or a stranger,
someone that they're interested in,
somebody they're interested in. Thank you, Austin. Will tell them something, then no, that's different. That's different. He said my eyes was pretty. Like I know my dad said my eyes pretty, but he said my eyes are pretty.
Right, and that's cool. So at least you did do your part of showing love and affection, especially at 13, because the things that I hear that she says goes on at that school from girls pushing up on girls, and I'm like, and it's 13. So it makes you really want to homeschool, but that has its advantages and disadvantages as well, because they're going to lack social skills being at home around you 24/7. So it's kind of the world is different.
There's a way to socialize that way too. I mean, you just got to get them involved in activities, so it's more than one way to get it done. I mean, the school system itself isn't great as it is.
That's
there's nothing wrong with homeschooling if that's what you need to do and you have the will. But I personally can't homeschool because I ain't got the patience or the time, and stuff like that. But I also educate my children outside of the school system, right? And the things that they don't teach them in school, I make sure that they know.
Right.
Like critical race theory. I will make sure they know about the history.
Teach your kids how to think, not what to think.
Oh God, that's good.
That's a good one.
Education over indoctrination.
That's right.
So.
Absolutely, because that's how you kill a lot of stuff. You get rid of a lot of, of absent-minded thought or a lack of critical thinking. It's just like, well, this is what I learned over here. But like even like now, as I'm learning things, even if I'm learning through the internet, I'm pulling different sources and I'm comparing what this person said to what that person said, and where they got that from and what the resource is on that. Because I'm still trying to put together a picture, right?
Right.
No one person has all the knowledge, but I'm gonna believe somebody who studies this thing more than I'm gonna believe a lay person who just grabs some information, right?
Yeah, y'all. Peep this video out. This one was funny to me. Y'all know I always gotta throw something funny on here. This was funny, but it was real about black men seeking therapy. This was deep, but the nice.
Bo is mad at how my father is handling his breakup.
How is he handling it? If it's anything like I do, he's having a good old-fashioned cry. Just letting it all out in a bathroom or in a Kia Sorrento parked near a beach.
Okay, my father's not going to cry. Black men do not get emotional in public. Michael Jordan cried once, and it's a meme.
It's true. When my mom passed, my dad was so afraid of someone seeing him cry that he had his tear ducts removed. Yeah, when it gets real cold, he bleeds from his eyes now. Still, better than crying.
Word. Denzel Washington is one of the best actors that we ever had. And in Glory, he was only able to drum up one tear. Now, if my calculations serve me correctly, he should be able to do a second tear in 2033. 33?
So if you can't cry, how do black men deal with their problems?
If I may.
Nope.
Black men deal with their problems one of two ways. Fight or flight. Mascot in your face? Fight. God does magic in the hood around you and a bunch of black guys and you don't understand what he's doing. Probably think he's in a cult or something. Flight.
Pops is cool. Right? He just needs to party to get it out of his system, and then he'll be back to normal.
So what you're saying is that partying is the black man equivalent of crying?
Well, it's also how they express fear, relief, hopelessness, and hunger. But in this instance, yes, it's crying.
And how many nights a week is your dad partying?
Not a lot. 7.
Oh, Dre. Sounds like your dad is crying a lot.
Real talk.
That was funny.
Real talk though.
Hey, that's real though, because we were taught, but now, like Austin was saying a few weeks ago, they want the kids to be emotional now. They want men that cry more now. But then, as we saw in another video I played earlier, the women was like, they had mixed feelings. They saying Tyrese cried too much. I wouldn't date him. He cried too damn much. So, I mean, do they want an emotional man or they don't? I mean.
Did you get the video I sent you with Tyrese? Because I sent one that he was talking about, like, why men have issues, with the emotion. And some of what I was talking about earlier with the, when we do cry, we're made a mockery of, and so like, how are we supposed to express ourselves? We just walk around angry, right. And he is one that cries publicly. He does, right?
But he was on psych meds. I did see an interview where he was on the psych meds, and that's why he was doing all the crying. He was emotional, and he don't drink and he don't do drugs or nothing. So when you're on meds and you have a clean system, it do make you go out your mind.
Don't believe that.
Don't believe that. Not go out your mind.
Not go out your mind.
Well, the thing.
Well, when I say go out your mind, it do make you act a certain way. If I don't do Percocets, or Austin don't smoke weed, if I give him a joint, he's gonna act a little different than I do if I smoke a day.
That's not how psychotropic meds work, though.
Yeah, that's not how, them the kind of meds don't work like that.
That's not how they work.
The stuff he's on
is different than a psychotropic med.
Yeah, that's gonna work
for your system.
But to the women that say he cried too much, but they want a strong man, women like that probably don't know what they want anyway.
That's true. I agree.
So I mean, just because a woman says she wants something, she probably don't know what she wants anyway.
I say that all the time. Most women don't know what they want.
They don't. Most don't at all.
And that's because they don't know
themselves. This was part of the fix our mental health.
Yeah.
A lot of women have heard what they need.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
But they haven't discovered what they want.
Come on, man.
Or need.
Right.
Or they listen to other folks telling them what they want or need or what it's supposed to be.
Again, we've been coached and conditioned in that way.
Especially with the new social medias and all that.
Right. And just like like you said, the idea of a high valued man, right? Like in my eyesight, a high value man, he gonna make some money, but he ain't got to make millions, right? But a high value man for me is somebody that can hear me and understand me and see me and communicate with me, right? That's because that's my value system is there, right? And stuff like that. Somebody that can work with me as a team. That's my value system and all that. The high value thing that's presented to us, as the social norm is just that. It's the social norm, right? And so that's where women are listening to this from, like, this what you need and this what you should have. And don't you let no man walk in your house and blah, 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 or whatever, When I would say don't let no man walk in your house without treating you with value, whatever that looks like for you. But if she don't have no value for herself, then she gonna accept whatever is, right? If her daddy beat her all the time as the way to discipline her, then that value and love looks like when a man hits me, he loves me because my daddy said he loved me and he used to whip my ass all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's all that conditioning and learning those things growing up that creates what our value system is. If you learn. If you learn that people come and go, right? People say they love me, they stay, and then they leave. That and your parents did that, and the adults in your life did that. Then that creates a certain attachment style, right? And so you might have a sense of loss of and abandonment all the time. So you try to hold on to whatever you can hold on to, right? Or I'm so afraid that I'm fearful and I'm not going to attach myself, even though I like you and I want you and I see all the good things, but I'm not going to attach myself to you because I'm afraid of you leaving. So I'm going to stay fearful about it. Right.
Hey, that reminds me, the wife was talking to a friend and the friend and the husband separated. Okay. And he's seeing other women or whatever. But she the friend wants the guy back because she got quite a few kids by him. She want him back. And all she can think about, or all she talks about, are old times when it was the one or two good times, is compared to all the bad times that made the guy leave her. She just would, because I hear him talking and she'll say, and when was that? Oh, that was about 5 years ago. And when he do that? Oh, that was about 6 years ago. And so the wife say, so you don't have any recent, any up to date good times? But I told her, it's the fact that she had all like 3, 4, 5, whatever, however many, all her kids is by that one guy. And I think that if that woman was faithful or whatever, and really loved the guy who gave her, who conceived these children with her, I think women are a little bit more vulnerable to that guy than, you really want to be in that. So I think that's why she's still longing for him, even though he got somebody else, he's still able to come back, mess with her whenever, and still run through 2 or 3 other women. I'm thinking it's that.
And I can guarantee he was her first. I can guarantee he was her first too.
Yeah, or even if he wasn't her first, she's maybe operating out of a place of the unknown, fear of the unknown.
True.
She may be operating out of, hey, I got all these kids, no one else is going to want me, no one is going to see the value in me. So why not stay with something that's familiar, and that I felt I had value to?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why she keep letting him come back.
Could be. Could very well be. Yep.
But all right, gang, what we gonna do? I wanna hear George. Give me some closing remarks on black men in therapy and why we should consider seeking it, compared to, like I say, our parents. I know mine didn't go to no therapy.
I say we need to, as individuals, for ourselves as individuals, look at the cost of not seeking therapy when it's needed. Look at the cost of not addressing trauma, not only trauma, but mental health, societal issues, things that lead to our subjugation as black men, and look at what it's costing us, and really examine: do you want to keep paying that debt? Do you want to keep incurring that cost? Because we are not at the station where we should be in our society, economically, socially, or in any way. And we can't blame the white man anymore. We can't blame our women anymore, even though they play into it. We can't blame them. It's on us. It's our accountability, and that means dealing with your trauma, dealing with your issues, and dealing and being real with yourself, no matter what that looks like, how ugly or painful it may be. Because without pain, you can't grow.
It's absolute.
It's real.
Awesome. Well, you can never be the best you until you define who you are by identifying what you've gone through to see what it has made you.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was real good. I like that.
And what that meant, Shawnnell, what you get out of that? Because I just heard a lot of yous. What did you get out of it? Since that was so good.
That was good. And it was good
Yeah,
because I see the mental health journey as a journey back to yourself. Right. There's so many things in this world from the time we are born and sometimes before we are born. And like I mentioned with genetics and DNA, there are so many things that take us away from who we were created to be, right? And to know our true selves. And every time you encounter some traumatic event or something that doesn't build you up, then you lose a piece of yourself, right? And when you decide that you're tired of that, when you're tired of being the way you are, living the way you are, you're tired of being miserable, you're tired of things not going the way you want them to go, and you decide I'm ready for some change, seeking that mental health help, be it again, therapy is not the be all end all, right? It's just a piece of the puzzle, right? But being able to start seeking out, like Harvey has said, other men who can be there for you, right? Somebody that I can trust to talk to, a podcast, a book, whatever it is that's going to help you heal yourself, right? And so until you can reach that point of wanting to heal, you're going to live the same miserable life. You're not going to be happy, right? That's not choosing happiness, right? And so once you start that process, like George says, it's going to hurt because you got to deal with the pain. You got to deal with your inner child. You got to, drum up the stuff. You got to see what did come from slavery. That's a cycle that I need to break because it's not, the norm ain't necessary for me, to move forward and be my best self, right? And then you get into whatever you need to get into, and you start your process. I promise you'll be better in the middle of it and at the end of it, but way better than you are at the beginning of it.
Way better.
Because it's for me, it's never ending. Like me and George we are both advocates. I'm gonna be in therapy the rest of my life. I don't care if I might see my therapist once every 6 weeks or something. I don't know, but I will always need somebody to bounce something off of. I will always need to process a thing, because as I talked to some clients this week about the same thing, that the stuff that we got stuffed down, right? Especially as Black people, the things that we have stuffed down all the way down to our feet, as we start lifting that stuff up when you're talking in therapy and processing the things and figuring out the stuff and dealing with the inner child. But every time you lift the layer up, that stuff is rising and it's rising. And so it's always going to be something you got to peel off, but at some point you'll get to a point where you can recognize that thing for yourself and you know what to do about it. Right. I know when I hear my mother's voice calling me fat, I I don't see it as myself. I recognize it's her voice, right? And I recognize that it was a her thing. It wasn't a me thing ever.
Right.
And so now I can redirect that voice. When that voice enters, when it starts to enter, I can cut it off before it says anything because I can feel it coming. And now I'm like, no, that's not the truth, because you're fine as hell, girl. You know, and I know what to tell myself, and I believe myself, right? That's all a process, though. You got to get to that level and get to that point. But you'll never get there if you don't start taking the first step.
And I like what George said earlier, because I admire my Big Mama too. But everything Big Mama taught us doesn't necessarily mean it was right. It was right. It was right in her eyesight for then.
For that time, yep.
But that right. That doesn't mean that I got to take that and apply it for the future. Because my brother, even my older brother, and I said this on the podcast, he lost his children, meaning they don't like him per se, because he tried to take what his dad did to him and apply it to them, and it didn't work. So he told me when I started having them, he said, hey man, the things that my dad did to me didn't work on my kid, and now I lost mine. He say, so don't apply what mom and dad and them doing to you to your kids. He say they all different, but it took him to lose his, you know, to do that, you know. So had therapy been in there and he saw what his dad did to him, how it messed with his psyche and had him acting out with his, it probably could have intercepted that and had a different outcome.
Absolutely.
So that's what I learned.
At any point, it could have intercepted it.
That's what I've learned from listening to you, and got farther enforced listening to Austin, and especially George and the other two guys that was on the panel. And I'm more subject to it now. But at first, I was the stereotype. They handled it. But then when I sit back and look from listening to you guys, I go back and I look at Dad when he was sitting at the edge of that bed after working them 16 hours and Mama was at the club. He needed some damn therapy.
Yeah, he was sad.
When he punched that hole in that wall, he needed therapy. He was angry like you guys are saying, but he had to carry that image to keep us feeling comfortable in that household. So I'm seeing now the purpose and the meaning and why it's into play. You know, because had the men that we grew up watching were going there, who'd have known how differently I would have been raised, how differently the household would have been ran if they would have seen couple therapy. The arguments that I witnessed and they got me not liking women that go to clubs, got me not liking women that dress a certain way because I saw what it did to Dad. It could have been a totally, and I didn't seek that at 20. Because I messed over a whole lot of people that really loved me because of what I saw growing up. My brother the same way. You know, he terrible. Austin went through a whole bunch of stuff from what he's seen, and he just now found his true lover. You know, his wife. But he went through so many different ones because of how we grew up, what we saw, that we just held in and we dealt with ourselves. We shut people off. We closed people out. We hid feelings. We did all this because we saw our parents, our fathers, the men we looked up to, our granddad. We seen them do all of this, so we figured that's what we do.
Yeah.
And had therapy been an in thing, a cool thing, because we was into what was lit. If that was what was going on back then, different people taking turns going to therapy, I just felt like we all would have been better.
Yeah.
But he started seeking it first, and then he was trying to turn me onto it. And I hear the video. This is how I used to look at him right here.
I'm late, guys. I just got back from therapy. Oh my God, you go to therapy? Wow. Yeah, just checking in with her. What's wrong with that? No, nothing's wrong. If you're trying to become a better version of yourself. Yeah, look at this guy trying to improve his mental health. Attempting to outgrow his past issues, trying to untangle everything that's been holding him back. Look at him trying to take accountability for his own behavior like a responsible adult. Yo, I bet this guy is so aware about himself, he wants to unlearn toxic generational habits to make sure he doesn't pass it down to his kid. I bet this guy has a healthy relationship. Yeah, I bet they go to therapy like twice a month. Dang, twice? Even if they're not going through any issues for the sake of maintaining a healthy relationship. Oh, look at him realizing we're a detriment to his well-being. Realizing friendship doesn't provide the same cathartic experience as having regular meetings with a trained professional. Look, now he looks like he wants to talk to his therapist about this. Get your ass out of this toxic environment. Get your cathartic ass out of here.
I love that one.
That's how I used to see him. Man, I just left therapy. I'm sitting outside of the office. I'm like, this dude's tripping. But I see how much of a better person he became. And then when he would talk to me about my issues, the conversations was more mature.
Yeah.
He wasn't agreeing with what I was saying. And he was like, well, maybe it's not all of her. Have you ever looked at this? Do you do this? Do you do that? And I was like, man, this nigga going against me. What's going on? What the hell going on? He was like, what's up? That's man code. And he didn't care. And so when I hang up after I get mad at him, I was like, whatever, simp, click. And then about 2 days later, when I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm supposed to get up at 7, but I wake up at 5 and I'm laying up there staring at the ceiling. I'm like, hey, he got a point.
Right.
I don't do this. I haven't taken her nowhere lately. I haven't. She hadn't fixed the hair up and threw on something nice, and we go, we don't, And so I was like, well, maybe I need to do that, But at first he'd be like, yeah, man, he would agree with me. Man, if she don't understand that, man, I'm like, oh, yes, what's up? Now I hang up and my chest up, But yeah, he started. That little nigga started going to therapy.
I think he froze. I was gonna say that the other great thing about going to therapy is that once you start, you naturally start sharing with others, right?
Right.
He did that.
Knowledge gets spread. So when Al said one life at a time, one person at a time, but that person causes a ripple effect, right? Because you start engaging with other people different, you start thinking different and presenting different to other people. You have them questioning stuff, and so that one person teaches many. It teaches many, and it's going to spread out. It's going to have an effect on the people around you in one way, shape, or another.
And I'm gonna say this: George hit on the head. Something my brother told me today. I was heading home. I was like, I got to do the podcast. He asked me what it was about. And I told him it was about Black men in therapy. And I was telling him that in the beginning, I really didn't care for it. I believe in it. And then my thing was, too, talking to strangers, as George was saying. But what my brother said to me, he said, man, that's the best person to talk to.
Right.
I said, why? He said, because, hell, they don't know you from a can of paint.
Thank you.
He said, they not judging you. They just giving you their professional opinion. Right. And you can talk to them about your cousin, your brother, your sister, your mama, your girlfriend, your wife, your side piece. And he's saying, guess what? They don't know none of them.
No.
I was like, he got a thought there. Right. So that even made me more open to the fact of therapy. But he said that like an hour or so right before the podcast, because I was looking for him to say same thing with me, that. But he's like, he go to therapy, and that's why he go, because he's able to express himself to somebody who don't know him, who can't judge him. They only know what he's telling them. And I was like, wow.
That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's all.
But I was like, if I know my problem, you know your problems. We know what we're doing wrong. But like you guys convinced tonight, if not the world, you convinced me tonight that a lot of times it's deeper than what's on the surface.
It's always deeper.
Because my issues
always more than
back to childhood. And as Shawnnell say, our issues can go all the way back to slavery and the systematic mental behavior on what we've seen and was taught is why I'm in the masculinity, I guess you could say, suit that I'm in, because of what I saw. And at one point, like I said, I could tell from George, at one point, he was that, but he knew something was wrong with that. and he chose to seek elsewhere to see what else is it, because this is not working. I didn't. I just said this ain't working with this person. Let me go find me another
person.
and
At some
then
point when you
I
do that,
became
you
the
figure out the
common
problem is you.
denominator. I became the common denominator. And then, like George also say, and you and Austin, the fact is accepting the accountability. Black men first need to accept accountability. Once you do that, once I say, and I was telling my brother as on the way to the house, how many I ran off. And I say, and guess what? I know I'm fucked up. I know this now.
That's okay. And that's okay.
I know this now.
That's absolutely okay. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So
wrap that up and know that if anybody out there is black man is looking to explore therapy and all that, some resources, therapy for black men, inclusive therapy, Alma, Headway. It's just a few places where you can start to try to look and find somebody, look for somebody that has a good fit, look for somebody that does free consultations so you can see if they're a good fit. You know, there are plant therapists that accept insurance. Some will give discounts if you have, you know, financial issues or whatever the case may be. And if you're not ready to step into that arena, keep showing up for podcasts. Keep doing whatever it is that you need to do. You know, talk to somebody. I have a black male group, Soccer-Breaking Black Men. Join the group, get some resources, get in with some people. You know, just connect, make some sort of connection to be able to start your process. But you're not alone, right? And don't continue to suffer in silence. That's what I would say. In other words,
they dropped off. Yeah.
Worked. All right. So I guess we're gonna wrap that up. I don't know if he did he go? Because usually
I guess so. I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up.
And all that. So so with that being said, peace out. We spoke on it, men's mental health. Come see us next week. We won't be on mental health, but you know I'm gonna bring some therapeutic stuff. So you know, be as Baptiste, you know, be as therapist. Baptiste, thank you, George, for showing up tonight and doing the thing and all that. You know, you good, Black?
Oh yeah.
You know, so I was
So enjoy you, Shawnnell. It was
of course.
It was a pleasure. Nice show. A lot of knowledge dropped on it tonight.
Of course.
And I was impressed. I'm impressed.
And I'm excited to just start doing this once a month and come with some more subjects and some more things. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that was deep. Because when you singled out the men, I was like, being that I'm not one who, you know, I wanted to be open to all, but then when I started doing my research, we are the ones that struggle. And I was like, wow, she hitting it on the head. But you're the therapist. That's your job. You know, you knew that, because I was like, no, more women.
You know, but I'm in the room with black men, so why not start with the black men?
Yeah, that's right. And you did that. That was it.
Maybe next month we hit up on the black women. We'll see.
That's it. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was deep. I learned a lot, and with our conversations, I took in a lot tonight. It was interesting. I took in a lot.
Good. You know, I got your back, dog. You know, I got.
Oh yeah, you in there. I took that in though, and everybody you brought on was excellent. I love their education. I love the verbiage. I love, you know, how they presented. You know, and everything they said made sense. It was, you know, they're about their business, and I like that. So yeah, so same time, same spot next Wednesday night.
And if anybody want to continue this conversation, I'm gonna be live on TikTok for about an hour after this at Choosing Empowerment 29. So if you want to see me over there, come and holler. We can continue talking about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over there and check her out on TikTok, see what's going on. Next week we're gonna have a panel. We want to know why the behaviors are the way they are with the youth, with the women. What role do we as men play in that? Okay. The behavior, the new behaviors of our women, and why the teens are nonchalant and desensitized to murder and all that. is the black man exempt from that, or are we a major part of that? For not being a part of it. So that's what the topic's supposed to be about next week. And if anything changed, I'll let you guys know Sunday or early Monday. But that's the topic. But until then, we want to dock this ship on the Speak On It podcast, season 2. Appreciate you, Shawnnell.
Of course.
And we out of here till next week. Hey. Women do what you allow them to do, and vice versa with the women. A man gonna do what you allow him to do, and if you don't know your worth, you'll put up with that bullshit. But when you know your worth and you know you don't have to put up with it, you ain't gonna put up with it.
The girl was like, well, if I decide I want to wear a string bikini, to the beach and all that, I don't deserve to be harassed. And if you got a problem with that as my man, that's a problem. He was like, look, I'm not, like, you shouldn't be harassed. You're right. You shouldn't be harassed. However, they got creeps out there. Period. There are creeps out there. And so you have to be mindful. He's like, I'm not worried about my woman per se. She fine and she put it out. Okay, cool. However, they gonna have somebody that's gonna disrespect that boundary. They gonna have somebody that's gonna do something to handle because they don't have the respect.
Right.
That's who I'm looking out for. That's who I'm afraid of you attracting, right? And stuff. And so that's real talk. Like, you're going to attract the creeps with that. A woman is tight because she's nervous. It's a muscle. So if I'm nervous and I'm not comfortable, then it's gonna be tight. That don't mean necessarily that it's just
preach my Shawnnell, cause when you're loose and like that, you wanna know what we doing? We getting ready to orgasm. It's called bottoming out. We're letting that bottom drop so you can hit what we need you to hit, so we can get what we want. If you notice, every time before the orgasm, it goes loose. Pay attention. Before her orgasm, not your orgasm is tight because she's working for you. Her orgasm is loose every time. She don't squeeze during the orgasm. She squeezes after the orgasm because she's trying to stop. It's a reflex after. And I'm sorry, y'all not moving, shaking. I got my phone in my hand. But that's how I teach my classes. That's how it works.
There are some decent women out there that may have kids that are able to hold it down for themselves and still be able to accept a man into their lives in a man role. So
see, the thing is, when you just say you need a woman that's holding it down by herself, this is the problem right here. In today, in the 21st century, a lot of women, they don't want to have no damn discipline. They don't want no man to come in and tell them what to do. They don't want to follow no rules. They want to sit there and say they want a strong man. As soon as that man show up and start trying to lay down structure and foundation, they flee. Oh, you trying to boss me around. You trying to tell me what to do. All this nonsense. You want me to be submissive. I ain't no slave.
No, Rick,
all this goofy shit.
You narcissistic. That's the new word.
Yeah, that or toxic masculinity. All these other shaming tactics they got trying to do.